Saturday Conscious Crew. I'm just coming to you guys real quick. I wanted to get this commentary out of the way. I am up doing my morning higher consciousness routine and listening to damn mess. And I was like, you know what? I need to bring this into my commentary. All right. Now, after this, you guys probably won't see me until Monday, maybe, because I've been working so back to back on this platform that I literally don't even have YouTube sending out my notifications at this point. Because you guys know you want to get like 3 notification bundles per upload within like each 24-hour or 48-hour period on YouTube. So, you know, when you're going live multiple times a day, you're making multiple posts, etc. Eventually, YouTube just leaves your channel alone, okay? Because you need to just pump your brakes. But I have not been pumping my brakes. I've been back to back every day, all day, for hours on end. So it is what it is. All right. Before we get into it, you guys already know what I need y'all to do. Go ahead and thumbs up the video until it's absolutely stuck. Thumbing up the video not only helps with YouTube's algorithm, but more importantly, it triggers up YouTube's notification system. So when you are thumbing up the video, you are literally knocking on the digital door of another Conscious Crew member and letting them know to get their black asses into the sanctuary on this Saturday morning. What's up? Make sure that you have your notification bell set to all. And last but not least, please share the stream out to wherever it is you have digital community, whether that be a YouTube community wall, your Snapchat, your Facebook, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you, in fact, lay the link. Just let them whores know that we're loud, we're live, and we're certainly in color. With no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh, and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Conscious Crew, what is going up? Hey, Kat, what's going on, honey? I guess you are the only one up with the Folgers in your cup right now. All right. Grand rising. I don't know why the hell I have such high energy, and I'm just like feeling myself this morning, honey. I've just been zooted and booted. Like since 2025 has hit, I've been hitting with it. Okay, I'm just feeling real good. I want to issue a disclaimer before we get into the main topic for the day. Grand rising, Whitney. Hey, boo. I did a roast down of Justin Bieber in good fun last night on the platform since he decided to bring his peen print to the internet. Okay, where you are allowed to react to said peen print. He made these pictures publicly available to all of us to react to in various ways, whether it's on his platform, our platform, his comment section, our comment section. So I did what Justin Bieber wanted me to do, which is give him feedback. All right. Now, some of y'all are being really pressed about these celebrities who will not piss on you, even if you were on fire. Okay. I cannot speak for the platform that any other creator is creating, but over here, this is a entertainment platform. Okay, you come here to have a good time. Sometimes you come here to be inspired, you come here to learn, but ultimately this is an entertainment based platform. So that means that even when we're being serious, there's going to be a sprinkle of entertainment in there, or sometimes it's going to be just full on entertainment. All right, come here with your titties and your hair and your do-rag let down, baby. Okay, if you don't know how to relax and just enjoy things for what they are, take them at face value, and get the fuck on, then you don't really need to be here. I do not care about how you feel about what my opinion is about a particular individual in question or of topic. I am a commentator. That's what I get paid to do, is have a fucking opinion, and I want to continue to have one for the rest of my life, as you all get to have in the stream, in comment sections, etc. The reality is that even if you are a viewer and you are an active viewer who leaves your opinions all across social media, essentially you are a commentator as well. You just don't have a single isolated platform in order to give your commentary through. But that's what we're all in the business of doing, as those of us who are indulging in social media. All right. So yes, your fave will sometimes be roasted down. Sometimes my faves will be roasted down to the damn ground. Okay. And it is what it is. We're here for a good time, not a long time. All right. So I'm not going to be putting up with the bullshit. I don't want to hear the stupid, shallow feelings you have for someone who doesn't even allow you to talk to them, okay? Because, see, you can access me. You can't access Justin Bieber, okay? You can access me. You can't access Beyonce, okay? You can access me, but you can't access Donald Trump, okay? These people pay y'all dust and are pure capitalists at heart, and you're only a paycheck to them. So move around and get out your fifis and spend half of that time defending your loved ones and your grandmothers and your matriarchs, more so than you do defending random ass motherfucking buffoons who put their business out here for us all to indulge in. Now that we've gotten that straightened, let's go ahead and move into the main topic. What's going on, Crystal and Scorpion? So I was scourging through the internet, minding Wendy Williams' business, and came across my girl, Simone. I don't know if you guys know who attorney Simone Redwine is. She is an attorney. I believe she practices in the area of banking, finances, and I think she's a civil attorney. She also has a YouTube channel. I love her down boot. She is a total key, and she's very informative. And she had provided commentary about Wendy Williams' conservatorship. All right. Now, you guys know that we've been talking about Wendy Williams over the past few days because she went on a press tour on Don Lemon, Hollywood Unlocked, in the Breakfast Club platform. And she, was very emotional, particularly in that Breakfast Club interview. And she cried out about her guardianship and her feeling like she's basically in prison. She slammed her handler, Sabrina Morrissey, who you guys know was a part of our deep dive on yesterday. So if you missed the unhinged, it's the unhinged story of Wendy Williams, Wells Fargo, If you missed that video, check that out. That was a 2-hour live stream. It was really good. We started from 2017 and worked our way up to kind of just refresh our brains about how this kind of chronologically happened. Some of the things that I'm going to let you guys hear, courtesy of Simone's platform via fair use. She's going to corroborate some of the conclusions that I've also come to, and just keeping this whole sequence of events in order. And we're going to talk about the letter that Wells Fargo wrote to the courts as it relates to guardianship, etc., and just go a little bit into that and get into Wendy Williams and her sister Wanda, who is also a attorney as well. All right. So let me go ahead and pull up an image of Simone Redwine. All right. Also, her channel link is also in the description box below. And of course, this is once again fair use. And Attorney Simone is going to talk about Wendy Williams, because Simone to get all up into the paperwork, baby. She'll go get the goddamn court records and everything. Okay, she's one of those girls. Okay, she's a paperwork girl like myself. All right, and she's going to talk to you about her findings in some of the legal work. Okay, she has another video where she gives like a full-on breakdown, but the video I'm going to let you guys hear, she is just giving the clip notes or whatnot. Where's my fair use disclaimer? Bloop. All right. So once again, this is courtesy of attorney Simone Redwine's YouTube platform, and her link to her channel is in the description box below.
The real gist of it is that Wendy has a conservator because Wendy asked for a conservator. More specifically, Wendy has a conservator because Wendy asked for a conservator.
Let me let y'all hear that one more time.
More specific is that Wendy has a conservator because Wendy asked for a conservator. More specifically, let me clarify. Her sister wanted to be her conservative. Her sister, Wanda Finney. Wanda is a lawyer. Wanda has made an entire career out of protecting children and juveniles. She actually was executive director for 4 years, the most recent 4 years that she was working, for a nonprofit in Florida that helps homeless teens with guardianship issues. She's their spokesperson. So it seemed like, what better type of person to have appointed as a guardian? Number one, she's a lawyer. Number two, she's a lawyer that protects kids. If you can protect kids, you sure can protect grown folks, I would think, especially your own sibling. But here's the problem. Oh, Miss Wendy did not want Wanda to be her guardian because Wanda said she couldn't drink.
Wow. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Okay, I'm going to rewind that bike one more time.
Miss Wendy did not want Wanda to be her guardian because Wanda said she couldn't drink. Wanda said there will be no drinking under my watch. I love you and I want the best for you. And the best is no alcohol, Miss Thing. I'm logging into my.
Okay. So, wow. All right. So let's bring that in. Okay. Because you guys were bringing up Wendy Williams' sister yesterday. Wanda, who also appeared, I believe, on the Where Is Wendy Williams documentary that's now been sued the hell up by The Guardian. Wanda is an attorney and she helps disenfranchised children, disenfranchised individuals, and she was willing to step up and to be Wendy Williams' guardian. However, because Wanda was not going to be an enabler and she was going to regiment Wendy Williams in order to help her to sustain sobriety, which is necessary since Wendy has a literal neurological disease that has manifested as a result of her alcoholism. Okay, her frontal temporal dementia is a result of her alcoholism. So Wanda, being her sister, being responsible, and really wanting what was best for Wendy, was willing to take on her fair share of the entire responsibility behind Wendy, but William petitioned against it because she was not going to be fed that liquor bottle. She wasn't going to be fed that liquor bottle. This resulted in things becoming even more complicated as it relates to the guardianship situation. Okay, so I want you guys to just hold on to that piece right there. Hold on to that piece because we got to get into Wells Fargo, who also played a hand, because between what I learned yesterday and the pieces that are coming together today, this guardianship situation with Wendy is literally just about a bunch of interesting moving parts. There isn't one single entity that is responsible for the guardianship. It's literally like a Final Destination sequence where various circumstances kind of like culminated in this tsunami or in this hurricane, just like natural forces, just like the natural forces behind a tsunami, behind an earthquake, behind a hurricane coupled with like where that storm or natural disaster hits also equals a lot of damage and human casualty. And it's not per se intentional, more so than it is just a bunch of interesting variables that collectively led to said outcome. That is the gist of really what I am learning about this guardianship situation. All right. Now, Wells Fargo, remember, a financial advisor working for Wells Fargo flagged Wendy's account. Apparently was behind the scenes before she officially flagged it to inform Wendy that, hey, you know, it seems that there may be some compromise as it relates to your finances, etc. There are these, you know, very interesting charges coming out of your account, blah, 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 blah. When within all banking institutions, they have a clause that pretty much, like under the guise of the law, justifies them reasonably like keeping an eye out on your money and your assets that they are the guardian of, and kind of like being this overarching authority for what you've put in their possession. So they have the right to look over your finances. They have a right to flag any discrepancies, to initiate and arouse any investigations if they suspect fraud, if they suspect financial abuse, etc. Banks have those rights. And from there, if they feel that there has been compromise or exploitation or fraud, etc., they can legally freeze your account. They can then petition the courts and then have the courts take up the matter from there. And then you end up in basically a versus match between the courts and your financial institution. All right. Simone also had presented the letter that was presented on behalf of Wells Fargo to the courts, who were responding basically to Wendy Williams, who was attempting to like contest this scenario going on with Wells Fargo, freezing her assets, freezing her account, etc. They had shut her shit entirely down. And initially, this was only on Wells Fargo part. Only on Wells Fargo part, okay? It was only supposed to be a petitioning for financial guardianship, consideration for financial guardianship under the guise that Wendy Williams was being exploited and was not competent enough to be in control of her assets, etc. All right, let me bring this up. Now, what I'm about to show you is pretty pixelated because at the time that Simone showed these documents, I think it was like 2 years ago, and she was only using like 720p. So the quality on this document is not, you know, completely crystal clear, but I'm going to like basically read the gist of it to you. All right, so here's that Wells Fargo letter. It's a response to Hunter versus Wells Fargo Clearing Services. This firm represents Wells Fargo Clearing Services. Okay, they explain who they are, blah, 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 blah. We also want to inform the court that Wells Fargo has filed a petition in the guardianship part for the appointment of a guardian of the property of the petitioner herein under Article 81 of the Mental Hygiene Law. We would, and I'm struggling to read this, y'all, we would welcome the opportunity to provide Your Honor and opposing counsel with a copy of the guardianship petition, but would like to do so under seal or in another manner that will preserve the confidential nature of a guardianship proceeding. Okay, so we're going to revisit that too. Those highlighted parts, we're going to revisit that. I don't even know. This summarized To summarize without divulging too much on the public record, Wells Fargo has strong reason to believe that the petitioner is the victim of undue influence and financial exploitation. The petitioner is an established client of Wells Fargo and notably 15 years with the particular financial advisor, a 23-year veteran of the financial services industry with an unembellished record. Wells Fargo is relying not only on reports of the financial advisor, who has recently witnessed telltale signs of exploitation, including the petitioner's own expressed apprehensions, but also upon other independent third parties who know the petitioner well and share these concerns. My God, today, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, which regulates financial service companies such as Wells Fargo, has become increasingly aware of these types of problems and has encouraged financial institutions to be alert to possible exploitation of their clients and to take preventive action where possible. This is consistent with New York State Social Services Law, Section 473, which encourages, and I don't know what, which encourages measures to mitigate improper use of an adult's fund, property, and I'm reading the other page here, you guys, which is not on the screen, funds, property, or resources by another individual, including but not limited to fraud, false pretenses, embezzlement, conspiracy, forgery, falsifying records, coerced property transfers, or denial of access to assets. Rule 2165 has recently amended okay, so it goes into all of that, all right? As noted, we stand ready to provide Your Honor with the record that will be furnished to the guardianship part. We respectfully suggest to preserve the confidential interests of the alleged incapacitated person as contemplated by Article 81, that the records in the instant proceeding, some of this is kind of like blurred out, be sealed and at least pending the outcome of Article 81 proceeding, or that an alternative protocol be established to preserve confidentiality in the interim. We note that although the current proceeding is styled as one in aid of arbitration under CPLR Article 75, we are unaware of any pending demand for arbitration or pending FINRA arbitration between these parties. All right, so very, very interesting shit, okay? So you guys can see here that Wells Fargo presented a petition for financial guardianship regarding Wendy under the guise that they had good reason to believe that she was incapacitated personally and or incapable of being in the proper frame of mind to defend herself, coupled with the fact that there may have been people that were preying on her financially. Okay, as you see them in the letter, they big up their financial advisor, who is, you know, have all these years in the financing department, blah, 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 blah. They are, you know, the super Pokemon of the financial advisory department, etc. So they are an expert, coupled with the fact that they had third-party information upon all of their own expert analysts and observations into the matter. Now, the question becomes, who in the fuck was that third party? Because Wells Fargo, upon request, and it was granted by the courts, wanted to operate under a sealed docket to conceal the identity of whomever these third party individuals were, who, according to Wells Fargo, were very, 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 very close to Wendy. Now, what's fascinating, as I also learned from Simone in another live stream she did with my boo, Really Be TV 2 years ago on the Wells Fargo matter, is that, guess what, you guys? The attorney that Wendy Williams had at the time, who was representing her in this matter, allegedly was the same divorce attorney that represented Wendy's husband, Kevin Hunter Sr., in their divorce proceeding. Girl, very interesting. So now the next logical conclusion or assumption has to be, right? Did Kevin Hunter Sr. have something to do with this guardianship situation and aided and abetted out of wanting to be financially greedy himself? We know that Kevin Hunter has, attempted to cipher money that he alleges is owed to him as a result of his marriage, alimony, his alimony, his business relationship to Wendy, being her manager, producer of the show, blah, 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 blah. And he has attempted to not only live off her money, but to spoil all of his sideline whores with Wendy's good hard-earned money. So Kevin might have selfishly, because I don't believe it was out of having Wendy Williams' best interest at heart. Of course it wasn't, because he's the same one that Wendy said has been cheating on her their entire marriage, and even was with the side piece that he had the baby with for 15 years of their 20-year relationship. Okay, so obviously Kevin clearly doesn't give a shit about Wendy. All right. Well, yeah, he never did. All right. So the fact that there's this link, even in the Wendy versus match with Wells Fargo, between herself and Kevin, because she's being represented in this matter by the same attorney that represented him in their divorce, is very fascinating. And once again, Wells Fargo keeps emphasizing that they have good, strong reason and basically have all this tea from other members outside of Wells Fargo who are connected to Wendy, who have raised alarm and have attempted to basically corroborate and legitimize the fact that she's being taken advantage of financially. So all this in combination is what basically led to Wells Fargo shutting shit down, getting the courts involved, and pretty much putting Wendy Williams in a position to prove to them that she's competent and in proper mental standing in order to have access to her money. And obviously she lost that battle. Now we got to also talk about that battle. Okay. But before we get there, let me make sure. Let me make sure of something. Okay. So let's talk about the son. All right. Now remember, everybody was saying, well, why didn't they allow the family to get in here? And once again, Wells Fargo wasn't petitioning for guardianship. They don't really have right to do that, but they can petition for financial guardianship if, once again, they come under reasonable suspicion that this is necessary. Once Wells Fargo had flagged Wendy's account and the courts had been put on notice, petitions had been sent and initiated, it wasn't until after that, unfortunately, that Wendy then tried to bring Kevin Hunter Jr., her son, who was 19, 20 years old at the time, college student, etc. She tried to bring him into a local Wells Fargo bank to have him sign a POA, power of attorney form for the banks so that he could be deemed legally competent and have the authority to step into this matter, etc. However, the problem with that was that the financial advisor had already created a narrative, and I don't know whether it was intentionally or whether the financial advisor really believed that Kevin Hunter Jr. was actually exploiting his mom. I don't know about the sincerity of that. I can't tell you if the financial advisor was operating on good cause and reasonable doubts and just really feeling like she was really looking out, or they were really looking out for Wendy Williams' best interest, or whether there was some game being ran. I do not know that. But what I do know is that because Kevin Hunter Jr. had spent $300,000 of his mom's money, which is a cute chunk of coin. However, that's relative, right, to how much coin you have. Wendy Williams allegedly is a rich bitch, and it is being alleged that Wendy had $55 million in her account at this time, which is why she pressed boots, and reasonably so wants her motherfucking money, because she's a very rich bitch, okay? And she done snorted too much cocaine and done damn near drunk herself into diseases in order to be the hot topic gossip queen with no morals and completely apathetic enough to not be reaping the financial fruit of all of her goddamn hard labor. Okay, so $55 million allegedly in this Wells Fargo's account. $300,000 of that money is coming out at the hands of her son. Now remember, the son ended up responding to these claims that he had wrongfully unauthorized finances from his mother's account. He said that it's not true, that every time he has extracted coin from his mother, that he had her permission, etc. And then there also was, I forgot the individual Thomas that we read from. I forgot who Thompson was in the situation, but they were advocating. I think that person was an attorney as well, or some type. I forgot what their role was, but they also went in and corroborated that there is no way that Kevin Hunter Jr. could have illegally authorized or extracted money out of his mom's account, because both Wendy and Kevin had to go through Wendy's accountant, who is the person who initiates payments, okay? Whether it's for rent, whether it's for mortgage, whether it's for food, whether it's for purchases of various kinds. So both Wendy and Kevin Hunter Jr., according to this Thompson individual, and if you guys need the specifics, go back to my live stream from yesterday, because we chronicle all this. Whatever role they played, they were like, this can't be true. Because even Wendy doesn't go through Wendy for her own money. She goes through her accountant for her coin, who then green lights A, B, C, D, E, F, and damn J. Okay? But because this had become one of the many reasons that the financial advisor had basically went to their superiors, and Wells Fargo then decided there was reasonable suspicion here of exploitation, and Kevin Hunter Jr. was apparently a villain at this point. This is why Wells Fargo denied Kevin Hunter Jr. being able to be the power of attorney. It was like too late. Like, the process has already been started on investigation and petitioning for guardianship. And ironically, like, your son is how we have fueled the need for this investigation. Once again, coupled with the fact that they were receiving a lot of third-party information from outsiders. We don't know who those outsiders are. Could it have been her ex-husband, Kevin, who was being salty, trying to throw salt on the situation, which, now that I think about it, maybe wasn't the case, because I remember doing a live stream last year where we covered the fact that apparently there was contention at one point between Wendy and her son, because apparently he was using money she was allowing him to have and giving it to his dad, who at that time was navigating divorce. And apparently Kevin was trying to help his father out. So he was taking some of the money that he was getting on behalf of his mom and disseminating that to his dad. So I'm now thinking maybe Kevin Hunter Sr. wasn't involved in this mix if he was grifting off of his son, who was also using, allegedly, Wendy's money to help his dad out. That would have been a conflict of interest, and that would have just resulted in Kevin Hunter Sr. sabotaging himself. So now taking Kevin Hunter Sr. out of the mix of who these third-party people are, who the fuck else? Oh, I'm going to tell you who the fuck else. That salty-ass brother that some of y'all claim. Some of y'all don't like Tommy, okay? Y'all think he's a narcissist. Some of y'all thinks he's jealous of Wendy. He's envious of Wendy. I don't know a lot about Tommy, so I haven't been invested enough to extract an opinion about his personality and his dynamics with his sister, etc. So I'm neutral on Tommy, and I just take it at face value. And we did also cover his talking points the other day in response to Wendy's press tour about her guardianship, which he constructively criticized. And I agreed with his criticism of the way that the family is optically allowing things to look as it relates to Sabrina Morrissey, the handler, who is in control of everything. I agree with his commentary. You guys can get into all of that too in the previous live stream. So could it be Tommy who may have corroborated? Maybe the banks, reached out to various relatives, or once this thing started showing up in media, or once, people within Wendy's family became aware of what she was going through, because, obviously the only friends she really have are her family. She obviously talks to them. Maybe they start talking amongst each other. And that's how word got out that Wendy was going through the situation with Wells Fargo. Of course, it became public news. It hit the blogs. And maybe relatives anonymously started calling in to Wells Fargo to help substantiate that, yes, she is being exploited. God only knows who that was. And the identities of those persons are in court documents, but they're under sealed records. So we have no idea of knowing who in the fuck corroborated and legitimized these concerns that Wells Fargo already had independently of anybody else from the outside coming in saying, yes, this is definitely going the hell on. All right. But remember, yesterday when we did part 1 deep dive into all of this, we learned from journalists who were reporting on the various ups and downs going on with Wendy Williams being in and out of mental health facilities, her discrepancies during her show, her erratic behavior, her fainting, her kind of getting glitched up and fumbling over her words, or just these like bizarre stare-offs where she just seemed to have gone completely blank. These bouts with her addiction that ultimately led to, the Wendy Williams show being practically canceled. We learned from journalists that the call for guardianship wasn't just a Wells Fargo thing, that eventually even members of the Wendy Williams show team, as well as various members of her family, all started crying out for the courts to get involved because they were afraid for Wendy. Wendy was clearly proven, as we demonstrated yesterday, that for years and years and years outside of the guardianship was out of control. She was not doing well on her own. She wasn't listening to anybody. Things were getting nasty, nasty, nasty for Wendy Williams. I'm going to refer to my notes here. Wendy Williams, as we established in part 1, her health started profoundly declining from her hypothyroidism, her Graves' disease, progressive aphasia, alcohol-induced frontotemporal dementia, coupled with the thralls of her addiction to cocaine and alcoholism. And this all culminated in various bouts in and out of mental health and rehab facilities. Even worse, you guys, remember in part 1 we covered that 2020 incident where Wendy was found unresponsive in her New York apartment, resulting in several blood transfusions. Even having the DJ from the show, who found her in her apartment unresponsive, to confirm on social media that everybody, according to him, according to the DJ, according to DJ Booth, was enabling Wendy Williams, supporting her addictions and her reckless disregard for her mental and physical health. And he expressed on social media that this would not end well for Wendy. And as we can see now, it did not. All these enablers, according to the reports that we read in yesterday's part 1, said this culminated harrowing chapter in Wendy's life had everybody crying out for intervention from the outside. Okay? So there was already a pleading to the courts for guardianship, just general guardianship, even before the financial guardianship petition of Wells Fargo came into play, because of everything that Wendy was going through and everything that was being witnessed by her family, being witnessed by her employees, being witnessed by her business partners, etc. Child. Which brings me to this, because remember, I also said in part 1 that Wendy is a narcissist. You know, she, of course, also never overcame her addiction, which is why she was in and out of rehab, and which is why she has frontotemporal dementia. I said and questioned, because remember, a lot of y'all are pro-family, get her out of this guardianship. Considering how well she sounded, I was like, yeah, I'm not throwing the guardianship situation completely out. I do think there needs to be a partial guardianship, because we know that Wendy was a train wreck outside of guardianship, which is why guardianship happened, because she was a train wreck. Her family either was not being allowed to help her, or she was resistant. Or they enabled her. Either they were trying to fight for her and trying to tell her what she needed to be told, trying to encourage her to be sober, trying to hold her accountable, and she knucked and bucked against that, or they, in fact, were enablers. Now, mind you, the Wendy Williams documentary was very telling, because it showed that the employees she had at the time also were enablers. Alcohol was found in her apartment. We know that the young lady, I don't know whether that was her PA or who the young woman was, who was driving her around, took her out to lunch, allowed her to order a drink. You know, these were all things that were a stipulation and a big hell no to no. All right? So how the hell did she get bottles of liquor in her apartment? Why in the hell was her assistant allowing her to order drinks at restaurants? And this woman is battling a alcohol-induced neurological disease. Okay? Now you have, on top of everything Wendy is going through prior to guardianship, and the family getting desperate because they don't know whether she's going to live or die, and they're wanting the court's intervention. The Wendy Williams employees and production are crying out for the court's intervention. That something needs to be done, something needs to be done, or this woman won't have a life to live. Coupled now with the conversation around exploitation, right, and enabling, now you have a son who's being accused by a financial advisor at Wells Fargo of financially exploiting her because of hundreds of thousands of dollars that are coming out of her account. Now, when shit hits the fan, according to court documents, an attorney, Simone Redwine, when it came to the question of guardianship, Wendy's sister, Wanda, who is an attorney, stepped in to be the guardian. She was willing to do it. She takes care of disenfranchised people. She advocates on behalf of disenfranchised people. As an attorney, this is her life's work. She was willing to be there for her sister. But according to Wanda, Wendy denounced that because she would not allow Wendy to do the one thing that had gotten Wendy into all of this trouble to begin with her career and her life and her health, which is allowing her to drink. And because Wanda was not going to be her sister's enabler, Wendy Williams ended up accidentally, indirectly, pretty much putting herself in a position to have oversight by a complete outside party, which is where Sabrina Morrissey comes into question at. I mean, not question at, but this is where she comes into play at. Because Wendy did not and was not going to allow Wanda, her sister, who is an attorney, to be her legal guardian, because she did not like the rules that Wanda was going to reinforce, which is no drinking, Miss Mamas, senorita. Wendy said, hell to the nah, baby. Hell to the nizzle. And then kaboom. You have the Final Destination sequencing of the pleading from her family, from the Wendy Williams production crew for the court's intervention, to then Wells Fargo pretty much being like the straw that broke the camel's back and petitioning for financial guardianship, then all perfectly tethered together and pretty much finished off by Wendy refusing to allow a responsible member of her family to act as her legal guardian, resulting in a state-appointed one, aka Sabrina Morrissey, who was appointed by the judge who presided over the Wells Fargo case, who also came under investigation because this judge took financial contributions and campaign money from law firms and attorneys during re-elections and then rewarded them once she would get reappointed with guardianships that they were seeking. Baby, this is so off the chain that it's like insane. Yes, Wendy. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Because Lisa says Wendy did it to herself. Hey, Todd. This is interesting, right? Between Wendy's production team crying aloud because, you know, they were afraid she's going to die at this point. She got too much going on. She got Graves' disease. She got progressive aphasia. She got frontotemporal. She's falling out. She's being found unresponsive. She's addicted to cocaine. She's addicted to alcohol. It's just, you know, she's not able to do the show. Her life is absolutely chaotic, and everybody knows there's nothing next but death. It's nothing next but the grave. That can be the only thing that happens next is the grave. So out of desperation, a lot of people, not everybody, this wasn't unanimous, but there were definitely enough people out of Wendy's professional life, aka the Wendy Williams show, and out of her family life, we don't know exactly who all those individuals are, particularly, started putting pressure on the courts to get involved. And then that was exacerbated by Wells Fargo and what was going on with her money and their request for a financial guardianship, and then Wendy pushing up against her sister stepping in. that led to the situation she's in now. But the thing about it is, like Liz said yesterday, Liz is a conservator herself, I believe. She came up and joined the live stream yesterday to kind of talk like the ins and outs of conservatorship, etc. We read a lot of good information on conservatorships yesterday as well, and some of the horror stories. And of course, it's not all horror stories. Like anything, there's, you know, heroic stories where the guardianship did what it was supposed to do. It actually helped and aided and abetted. And then, of course, where people were like trapped and taken advantage of, etc., by narcissistic relatives, etc., to be controlled. It's clear to me that nobody knew exactly what this would look like. And that's the sad part about it. Wendy's professional peers, aka the Wendy Williams Show production members who cried out to the courts, the relatives of Wendy's that cried out to the courts, that also acted and aided and abetted with Wells Fargo in this financial guardianship, because once again, Wells Fargo said it all up and through their letter on the screen, that they have received outside information from people very close to the situation, that there is definitely reason to believe that Wells Fargo is down the right road, that there's foul play going on. So there were definitely concerned relatives and inner camp members who felt that Wendy needed protection, if not from other people, at least from her damn self. But nobody knew what they were getting themselves into. Because Wendy was so reckless and out of control and so irresponsible, and she wasn't doing her part in taking care of herself mentally and taking care of herself physically, because she wasn't doing the work to actually be better, to be sober. She wasn't in therapy. She was self-medicating, and she was going through a lot. She was going through the trauma of her 20-year plus partner having a side baby. Soon after that, her mother passed away, which was one of Wendy's closest allies. That sent her into a spiral. Coupled with whatever pre-existing trauma and issues, because I also believe that Wendy is a victim of SA as well. If I'm not mistaken, I learned that in one of her biopics, that she apparently has been SA before as well. So there's all this pre-existing trauma that's being stacked upon by modern day trauma of divorce, of infidelity, of the loss of a parent. There's the stress of just being a celebrity. There's all of these things that we know and don't know. And as a result of Wendy not taking care of herself, not doing her work and not healing, she ended up existing and living in a way that then put her in a desperate, dire situation. And her community didn't know what else to do, because she wasn't allowing them to help her, aka, I'm not going to allow my sister to be my guardian because she's not going to let me do the self-afflicting, sabotaging thing that I shouldn't want to do, considering how much it's costed me, but that I don't have the power to stop myself from doing, which is drink alcohol. And as a result of her defensiveness, her not allowing nobody to help her, and then her ending up basically, you know, at the threshold of life and death at this point, it put the entire community around Wendy in a state of desperation. And at that point, they did not care who the fuck helped her. She just needed help. And they did not know exactly what they were getting involved in once the courts got involved. They did not know at the time. They were obviously just fixated on the circumstances around Wendy. They had no idea that the New York guardianship system is as fucked up as it is, that once you get in, it is almost impossible. It's almost impossible to get out. They didn't know. And the sad part about all this, y'all, is that Wendy has no idea that she activated all of this. Not even just in the fact that she pushed against her sister being her guardian, but that just her lack of self-care is ultimately what created this final destination sequence that led to now the situation that her and her community is in regarding the fucking guardianship. This is insane, and it is tragic. Now, bringing it to the current circumstances, right? Wendy is responsible for the situation. She's responsible ultimately for her current circumstances. But now we have a different, well, I'm not going to say a different set of circumstances, but we have a circumstance within a circumstance, right? Regardless of who's at fault. Whether it took teamwork to do this, whether it took Wendy to do this, there's another issue. The guardianship issue itself. And how ironclad the situation is, to the point that Wendy is living in an environment that she doesn't believe she is a fit in. I want to talk about this real quick, all right? Everybody, once again, is fanning out over how well she sounds. Oh my gosh, she's well. Let her out. Let her go pooch through in her onesie in Miami Beach water. Let her be with her kids, her family, her father. She sounds really competent. She's calling Charlemagne 5 times a day, 2 weeks on end. There's nothing wrong enough with this woman for her to be in guardianship. You got 2 things happening here. You have the actual law that is complicating freedom for Wendy, right? Because of the way New York laws are set up, it is allowing for there to be a lack of nuance in terms of what's going on with not only Wendy, but what's going on with anybody in a New York-based guardianship program. Hence, her niece saying the entire New York City guardianship program is swallowed up and has been compromised and is broken. So you have the law. The way that the law is set up is allowing it to prevail over the actuality. Meaning that while it may be possible for Wendy to be cared for and be put in the hands of people who could help her to maintain the results that she now has. She's sober. She's as lucid as she can be under the circumstances, which I think was what the attorney representing her in the lawsuit against A&E was trying to basically say, even though I kind of slammed and tugged on the wig of that attorney. Bitch, just worry about A&E. However, revisiting that attorney's statements that, hey, yes, Wendy sounded great, but don't let that shit fool you, bitch. Those are not consistent results. She has to be heavily regimented in order to be as stable as she is and to be as fluid as she sounds. That's the result of round-the-clock care. That's the result of her getting the proper medication for her progressive aphasia / frontotemporal dementia. So please calm down and know that what y'all are seeing in 30-minute interviews, all happening on the same day, might I add, that are not a true demonstration of what Wendy gives every day, all day, every month, all month, every year, all year. Okay? These are short-lived excerpts that aren't even live, apparently. Okay? So despite the fact that she may be able to exist in an alternative community outside this facility that will be just as responsible and just as good for Wendy, aka her family. The law now is basically operating as God. Because of the way this all happened with what was going on with her bank account, Wells Fargo requesting financial guardianship, then coupled with the family participating and crying aloud through those circumstances that yes, she needs help, she's in trouble, she's sick, she's addicted, she's drug addicted, etc. All these third parties that Wells Fargo wanted to protect in a now sealed docket, it put the courts as Wendy's guardian. So they now are in the God level position of authority to be able to look at the requests of the family, look at the requests of even Wendy, and decide if they're going to adhere or not. Just like a parent. Think of Wendy basically as a 13-year-old girl living under her parents' household. She can ask to go to parties. She can ask to get a new pair of Jordans. She can ask to get a car. Let's say a 16-year-old girl living under her parents' house. However, the parents ultimately decide whether that will or won't be. That's the situation that Wendy is in because of not just Wells Fargo, but because of everything else that was going on around her health and the fact that Wendy wasn't allowing anybody to help her. AKA, no, my sister can't be my guardian because I want to drink. What do you think that sounds like to a fucking court? What do you think that sounds like? So now, I can't even find it unreasonable that because of what guardianship is designed to do, which is once again to care for people who are incapacitated in various ways, an opportunity to have oversight in their life at the hands of the law as it relates to their choices, their well-being, their economic, etc. Because Wendy's whole situation placated to the courts ultimately greenlighting guardianship. Wendy's status, her health, her addiction, her recklessness, all placated to them deeming her incapacitated. Because obviously, a woman who's found unresponsive in her apartment is incapacitated and doesn't have the ability and the bandwidth to make the proper decisions. Obviously, a high-profile woman who has the resources to get herself the best mental health help, the best help for her addictions, is still struggling in and out of rehab, not being able to do her job professionally, aka all those Wendy Williams substitutes that had to come in and out of the show because she was in and out of rehabs, in and out of mental health facilities. The fact that she is doubling down so bad in her addiction that she develops frontal temporal dementia. The woman indulged in her addiction so bad that she literally developed a neurological disease. And then it's now the optics of everything. To Ariana's point, the son spending $100,000 on DoorDash, another $112,000 on a birthday, another $100,000 on this, and then family members who were secretly concerned, family members who were on the inside of this thing, not with us. We on the outside. Family members on the inside of this thing. Some who have cried it out publicly, and we know who they are, coupled with production members from the Wendy Williams show, some of who we know who have cried it out publicly, and some who we don't know from her family and her production team who have been crying on the inside and secretly galvanized with Wells Fargo in legitimizing their concerns that she not only needs financial protection, she needs all of it. And then as a result of Wells Fargo divulging all the tea to the courts took all that information, which we don't have access to, right? Because these records are sealed now. The confidentiality has been greenlit. What was told to Wells Fargo financial advisors and who told them and presented the things they did are now protected legally. So we have no idea what's been shown, and we have no idea who secretly and anonymously got involved in this Wells Fargo situation. And the Wells Fargo letter on the screen says it's plural. It's not just one whistleblower from Wendy's team, aka her family, aka her production team. It's plural. Y'all, given the circumstances and given the facts, this is not really a situation where the courts just took advantage of Wendy. It's not. Wendy circumstances with her health, her instability, her not being able to show up for work and do her job, her being found damn near dead in her apartment, all of her developing physical challenges and issues due to her self-destructiveness, they all checked off the box of guardianship. She checked off all those things without even knowing it. But then Wendy really fucked up, y'all. She really fucked up when it came to the courts deeming her legally incapacitated, when she proved to them that she did not have the ability to be in sound mind and to make sound decisions, when she literally told her sister, you cannot be my legal guardian because you won't allow me to hurt myself. That is absolutely grounds for incapacitated. You do not have the ability because you literally admitted that you wanted to live in a way that was unsafe and detrimental to your well-being. And her community asked for this. They just did not know that once she got well, once they intervened, that there would be a struggle to get her out. They just didn't know what the ins and outs were. But these are now the circumstances that they're in. This is not a situation, once again, where the courts just took advantage of some wealthy Black woman and vacuumed her into a system against her will, and she was competent and well and able-bodied. This is not those circumstances. Don't let the social media conversation and cry and free Wendy shit confuse you about what is going on in the situation. They had a very close relationship, and it was multiple individuals. Now, we knew throughout the years, especially around 2022, 2023, even 2020, because a lot of people around her started speaking out, aka DJ Booth, who came to social media and said, everybody enabling her. And everybody's going to regret this. And this ain't going to end well for Wendy. And he was saying that back in 2020, I believe. Either 2020 or 2022. Now, given the circumstances, you do have a flawed guardianship program that allows too much control in a situation that do need to have some leniency in considering other competent individuals around the person in guardianship who rights can be restored to and can be shared with, who guardianship can be shared with. These are things that need to be worked on in a guardianship program. It does allow too much control of the legally appointed guardian in the situation. There should be more fluid access to other competent members of that person's community being able to petition for shared rights, for shared custody, for shared involvement, for shared agency and autonomy in the situation. Another thing is Sabrina Morrissey. You know what? Now that I'm looking back in retrospect, y'all, I'm coming to some very scary realizations. Sabrina Morrissey, no wonder she had an issue with that documentary. Wendy said in her interview on the Breakfast Club that Sabrina signed off on the documentary being done. The title of the documentary was Where is Wendy Williams? Sabrina knew that this documentary was going to film Wendy over the course of months, right, in the eye of her injuries psychologically and her injuries physically. The fact that Wendy was being allowed to have employees of her choosing, because the people that she had as her PA, that guy that was in the video, these were all people that Wendy had known for years. These were Wendy's people, not the guardianship's people. So there seemed to me to have been a point where Sabrina was like trying to be loose with it. She was trying to be like very reasonable. Like, yeah, you can have your life. You can, like she was being a reasonable person. Because Wendy was still allowed to appoint the people she knew and she was familiar with and have them help her with her business and her everyday life, etc. But that documentary revealed that those people did not know what was best. Once again, they were stopping at the liquor store. She had liquor found in her apartment. They were taking her places, allowing her to drink. And then you had the family, aka the niece, etc., stepping into the documentary and then possibly projecting and blaming the guardianship wrongfully. Just based out of what things look like to Alex, what things look like to her. What things look like to you isn't necessarily what a situation actually is. It's just what you perceive it to be. And there can be a big difference between your perception and the reality of what's going on. So once Sabrina saw all this in retrospect and saw the finished product, and she saw that she was getting blamed for shit when she like, oh no, ma'am, what y'all not gonna do is act like I'm taking advantage of her or at all. Because the apartment that I sold on behalf of Wendy was what she wanted to be done, aka speed up to the Breakfast Club interview, where Wendy says she's glad that her apartment was sold. Huh, so glad it's over. So glad. There seems to be a miscommunication between the family and Sabrina. The things that they think she's doing, they are under the impression is for nefarious reasons, etc., and have no idea that these are the things that Wendy is also in cahoots with and desiring as well. And then Wendy is going back to her family, talking about the imperfect aspects of her guardianship experience, making the family feel a way about Sabrina and making Sabrina feel a way about the family. And there's a lack of communication directly in the middle. But then also what Sabrina saw that, damn, her team members are failing her. They're allowing her to drink. They supplying her with liquor. They doing all type of fuck shit. They not communicating with me. You know, I didn't know she was going to be going out of town, blah, 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 blah. So yes, once again, fast forward it to Tommy, Wendy's brother, who spoke out and said the family is moving zigzag as fuck. They are not respecting the fact that they have to go through this woman, Sabrina, for everything. They just look at Wendy as their relative and their loved one, and they're arrogantly just asserting themselves in the situation, but they don't have no fucking authority. So yes, we have to play the optic game, but my relatives don't want to play the optic game. They want to have the conservator greenlight her to come to Miami for almost 2 weeks to indulge in celebrating her son's graduation, but then know that we got monitoring spirits here every day on every family outing, and we turning up, drinks being ordered, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The monitoring spirits, the handlers in the situation, are videotaping, photographing, this, that, and the third, and then they're running back. Hey, Auntie Deb, running back to the Queen of Iceland, Sabrina, and God only knows how they are representing that to Sabrina. But because the family's so full of themselves, you know, they just have no regard for the fact that, look, we got to right now make this shit look a certain way so that this could be less complicating for us. So this could be less complicating for Wendy. So now Sabrina, who has been appointed to this situation by the judge, courtesy of her greenlighting the Wendy D. Williams documentary, got to also see some things for her damn self. And it has further culminated in Sabrina being like, yeah, nah, I really can't trust y'all. I can't trust y'all. Between the son allegedly financially exploited her according to Wells Fargo, the fact that before she was in the guardianship program, she had all y'all in her life and she was still not able to do her job. Her show had to be shut down. She was found unresponsive. She has progressive this, developing in frontal that, Graves' disease this. There's all this shit going on. And now I let loose. I trust y'all. And then what I see in this documentary, that her own fucking employees are acting a damn fool, secretly enabling her behind the scenes with the same alcoholism that got her incapacitated to begin with. And then, according once again to Wendy's brother, the family might actually be a safe place for the most part. But because when she's with her families, she still have her handlers in tow, and they get to be in control of the narrative. They get to be in control of what's happening. And based upon the way those handlers represent the partying, and like Tommy said, when Wendy came here, oh, it was lit, baby. And it probably did look worse than what it was. He was man enough to say that. It probably did look like what Sabrina thought it looked like when it really wasn't. And that's why he gave that dissertation about perception being reality. And because the family isn't mindful, they're secretly playing into the growing concerns of Sabrina ass, who's ultimately been assigned to keep Wendy ass situated and regulated. Because the reality is, what happens on Sabrina's watch also becomes an indictment against her. So Sabrina has an investment as well in Wendy being centered, in Wendy being as healthy as she can, because it's also a reflection of her professional obligation to Wendy as her legal guardian. So now, when I just look at all of this shit now, it's like, I'm not mad at the courts. They did what the law allowed them to do, and they greenlit this guardianship because Wendy checked off every fucking box that super qualifies, baby. She was super exceedingly qualified for a guardianship based upon all of the combinated circumstances in her situation, coupled with the fact that she pushed against her own sister and said, no, Sister Wanda, you cannot be my legal guardian because you won't allow me to destroy myself. You will not allow me to hurt myself. You will not allow me to unalive myself. You will not allow me to drink myself into a bloody pulp and do drugs and exacerbate my mental and physical well-being and fuck up the church's thing in the words of Funky Dineva. And the courts are looking at all this information provided to them by the Wells Fargo institution, by her friends and family who have added in all their concerns around Wendy's well-being. The fact that Wendy's inconsistency and instability is publicly chronicled through the cancellation of her show, through her in and out rehabs, and now also through the corroboration of the doctors who have legitimized the fact that she has progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia induced by alcoholism. And then that person who is now being asked to prove to the authorities, prove to us, Wendy, that these concerns, these petitions, these fears by your friends and family, by Wells Fargo, prove to us, baby, that this is not true. And you know what Wendy Williams does in taking the stand, metaphorically speaking? I reject a purely competent member of my family, aka my sister, being my legal guardian because she won't allow me to be addicted. My God, to fucking day. Y'all, get away from me with this. Get away from me with this. Get away from me with this. My God, today. Get away from me with this. My God. My God. This almost reminds me of the way that Tasha K and her wife Sheck incriminated themselves in their bankruptcy filing. Remember how shook I was that they kept running directly into all the incriminating walls that the trustee set up and basically admitted that they tried to defraud The United States government Wendy greenlit this whole thing accidentally. And her family and friends who all participated in crying aloud to the courts for intervention since Wendy was not allowing anybody to help her and she was literally dying and corroding away before everybody. All resulted in guardianship situation, baby. This is some wild shit. I want to add before I look at y'all comments and respond to some things. I had brought up power of attorney yesterday and how even before guardianship, like way before years, decades, way before guardianship, Wendy could have had a lot of her businesses in order. Attorney Simone Redwine spoke about that. And she confirmed what I said yesterday to Liz about the power of attorney. Liz was under the impression that it doesn't matter in this situation if a person has a power of attorney. Attorney Simone Redbone said that's absolutely not true. That the power of attorney, if Wendy had one, because before she was divorced, Kevin Hunter was her power of attorney. Obviously, that was dissolved through the divorce decree. Wendy then, unfortunately, never went back in and appointed herself a power of attorney. And by the time she needed one, aka with everything going on with Wells Fargo and her trying to bring her son into the equation after the fact as a power of attorney, which was to null and void, it was too late. However, Attorney Simone stated that had she had a power of attorney prior to this Wells Fargo situation, none of this would have happened. Absolutely not any of this would have happened. None of it. Now, her son still might not have been qualified considering his age, but if she would have had a appropriate appointed power of attorney prior to Wells Fargo flagging her account, her power of attorney absolutely by law given legal authority and right would have absolutely been able to stand in the gap and completely block and decide for themselves if she needed said guardian or not guardianship and what would happen to Wendy's money, and that the courts would not have been able to overrule on behalf of her in-place power of attorney. But remember, she did not have one, and she did not try to appoint one until it was too late. So Attorney Simone expressed that please get you a power of attorney. I was my mother's power of attorney. I told that to Liz yesterday, and now I know that that's why everything went so smoothly after she passed in terms of her estate, property, whatever, My grandmother, has her oldest daughter as her power of attorney. She decides over her living, her dying, her fortune, etc. Get you a power of attorney. But if you wait until it's too late, baby, and the courts have to end up being your power of attorney, you might not like the results and you might not be able to rest in your grave with what your family will have to contend against if you leave it in the hands of the state. Attorney Simone also said that if you don't have anybody like in your personal life that you want to appoint that to, that if you have a banking institution, that at every banking institution, possibly aside from I forgot what type of banks. Maybe they were unions, but any commercial bank can appoint you a power of attorney and has an entire like portfolio for your choosing as it relates to power of attorney. So your banking institution can also appoint you one if you don't have anybody in your personal life that you want to assign power of attorney to. But if you are a person who have possessions, etc., assets, you know, if you have anything of value, if you are a person of means, yes, yes, please, because Wendy Williams is a cautionary tale. To have your affairs in order, it matters. And it greatly helps in you being able to transition in case something happens to you mentally, something happens to your life, whether you are removed from life altogether. It greatly determines what becomes of your family's experience with the things you leave behind, or hell, even with you. So yes, power of attorney. Now I think I have grounded and ended my plane. I have, so I'm gonna reiterate then what I believe is should happen now based upon what I have concluded and what I'm now aware of, and bringing my whole perspective into totality. Considering what we know about Wendy's life prior to guardianship being fucked up, considering what the documentary revealed, which is that the people that Wendy are in relationship to are enablers. And given that I haven't seen anything honestly truly negative come out of the guardianship situation, aside from the fact that it may be too strict, I really don't see any other negative out of it. I'm going to say I am more so for the guardianship situation. I think that some type of guardianship, considering how out of control Wendy has been and the fact that she was on the fringes of life and death and she was not able to run her life, she was not able to take care of herself. That is proven by the way she lived and her circumstances throughout her career and leading up to all of this. I believe that there needs to be some sense of guardianship in place. What I would like to see done is that competent relatives be given some type of autonomy in the situation so that Wendy can live out the rest of her days in a way that's not only physically well, but that also is emotionally fulfilling as well. And having more proximity to her family is important to her. It's also important to anybody with dementia. As I said to Liz yesterday, and as I shared with you all yesterday, I took care of my grandfather who had dementia. And the reason why we chose to take care of him at home rather than put him in a memory care facility is because we had been told that patients and individuals with dementia do much better. They live much longer, and their dementia is slowed down profoundly by them remaining amongst people they are familiar with, being surrounded by people that they love, and being kept in environments that they are familiar with, their home, being around their things. So having access to their community is very important regarding their emotional and their mental stability. Do I think that the guardianship program should just throw her into her family and not vet whom ultimately should be responsible for her? No. Of course they should vet, whom is going to be held accountable for what happens to Wendy. so that there can be accountability. But obviously, there needs to be some loosening of some of these restrictions. But ultimately, I would be lying, as I have been saying for the past few days, that the guardianship program isn't doing good for Wendy, because it apparently is. I mean, aside from her just not being able to see her family and not preferring to live in a goddamn facility, she's well, though. She's lucid, she's cognitive, and she's sober. And that is important. That's important to me. I'm not of the community and attitude that Wendy should have a right to fuck up her life and should have a right to just go down in a blaze of glory and should just have a right to crumble and to indulge in her drugs and her alcoholism and to just injure herself in that way, which results in injuring the people that love her as well, and just fucking her shit all the way up. Because as DJ Booth said in 2020, that's exactly what the fuck led to all of this, is her having a bunch of enablers. And as a result, she's in a documentary wanting to pull out her wig and wearing 3-day-old fishnets and Daisy Dukes, bringing shame to her damn self. You think her relatives want to find her unresponsive? You think that people that love her want to have this dark cloud looming over them of if she's alive, if she's well? I haven't talked to her today. She hasn't answered the phone. Should we go over there? Should we send the police to her home for a wellness check? You think that that's obviously also can't be the option. That can't be the option. Now, once again, we're not negating the fact that there are some imperfections here in the guardianship program, and there needs to be some further regulating. But at the end of the day, if I had to choose between the lesser of the two evils, which was giving Wendy full autonomy where she can choose to be an addict and exacerbate her mental health, which only brings and puts more pressure and burden on her family to care for her, versus her being in a super legally regulated scenario like a guardianship, where she's in a facility getting round-the-clock care like she should have, being seen and treated for her various ailments by doctors. If I had to choose between the lesser of those two evils, I would have to lean more toward the guardianship that has resulted in Wendy sounding as close to herself at this point than we have seen of her in the past few years. So clearly, the guardianship, despite the imperfections and despite some of the public criticisms, isn't all bad. There are great results coming out of that regulated living style that the guardianship has her incubated in. Now, like what Tommy said, the family got to do their job. Because right now, based upon the way the laws are set in place, there's nothing the family can do. They are at the mercy of the courts. So now their best bet is to work alongside Sabrina, make sure that they truly are in it for caring for Wendy, and that they're not going to people please and have her fuck her shit up again. Hopefully they are in it for the right reasons. And if they are, they need to just work on building a better relationship to Sabrina and making sure that the optics, when they're dealing with Wendy, when she's in their custody, when she's visiting for days, for weeks on end, that the things that her handlers are witnessing and photographing and videoing and taking back to Sabrina all look very clean. That everything just looks very clean. Not like hygienically clean, but looks optically and socially clean. If that means that while she's in their custody, they also don't drink liquor and think that, oh, well, she not drinking, but I should be able to drink, and Sabrina should be mature enough to, separate my right from Wendy's right and not project it onto Wendy. No, baby. you can't even play with Sabrina ass, baby. Y'all not in a position, baby, to play with Sabrina ass, bitch. Because Sabrina ain't playing with y'all. So y'all can't play with her. If that's the sacrifice y'all gotta make while she's in y'all custody, girl, is to keep it real Cosby when she with y'all in order to encourage more privilege, to encourage more freedom, to encourage confidence in Sabrina that she's okay in y'all custody, because the family gotta think about what Sabrina has seen. Sabrina came into this thing initially open-minded. She allowed a documentary that ultimately she didn't end up feeling well about, that showed a lot of fucked up shit. That was not a representation of her per se, but if anything, it was a reflection of her trying to be reasonable. And look what happened. She was compromised. She was fed alcohol, all these things. So now, yeah, Sabrina is like, no, nobody gonna make me look bad in this situation. My job is to just make sure she's well. And if y'all don't operate in a way that encourages that, I have no problem keeping her from y'all ass either. Y'all at very best can see her very vaguely and can talk to her as much as she's willing to call y'all asses. But in terms of green lighting her ass to come down and allowing her to live and to be with the family for extended amounts of time, like the family, like Tommy said, they may not like it, baby. And I understand, baby, when we got egos and we arrogant, baby, you know, we don't like having to answer to other people. Not when you're grown, you don't. But the family is going to have to make some sacrifices and come to some collective consensus about this Wendy shit. And if y'all really love her and y'all really care about her having access to her family and her father and all of that, when she's with y'all, like Tommy said, baby, make this shit look simple. Make this shit look easy. Make this shit look boring even. Because they watching. They watching. Tommy said it. They watching. You got too many eyes on one situation. We're the family, and they are the appointed handlers in the situation. We're not playing on our chessboard. We're playing on theirs. And people might have their criticisms about Tommy, etc., but two things can be true at the same time. He might be everything that people say he is, but he also happens to be right about that. He happens to be speaking wisdom about that. He might be everything that everybody's saying he is. Oh, he arrogant. Oh, he jealous. Oh, he whatever. Yeah, but what he assessed and diagnosed and their situation as it relates to this is correct. She taking her meds. She has to, baby. I know what sober facility look like. I know what old folks home look like. I am somebody who I worked in a almost like a boarding home for the disabled. That was my job following high school. And baby, it ain't no not taking the meds. Baby, no ma'am, baby. There ain't no not taking the meds. Wendy Williams is not at home being cared for. She's in practically a hospital. She's practically in a hospital. Practically. Those meds are being administered to her one way or the other, whether it's through IV, whether it's through pill, whether it's through liquid form. Baby, she is taking the motherfucking meds, baby. Don't believe what the hell. And when I don't recall her saying she didn't take them, but I know that Charlamagne, dumbass, who was an advocate for mental health and Black people doing the work, and knowing that this woman has progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia and Graves' disease and hypothyroidism, was a fucking idiot to tell her not to be taking her meds. And when she said, I don't know what the meds do, you got to remember that can be more than likely a result of the frontal temporal dementia. That's what the attorney is saying. Wendy knows damn well that her meds have been explained to her. But she has frontal temporal dementia. So she don't know that these things have been explained to her. Even if we explain these things to her every other week, even if we explain these things every other day, she has frontal temporal fucking dementia. So you also have to, you know, just take that at face value in terms of what Wendy says. This is the same woman that could not empower herself and transcend cocaine, could not empower herself and transcend alcoholism, who was being found in drug-filled comas in her apartment, who was not able to do her job on the Wendy Williams show, and this was prior to guardianship. So all of a sudden now, don't forget who you listening to when you hearing her interviews. Don't forget that you're listening to a woman who was in such bad shape that her family and her production members and her friends had to cry aloud to the courts in order to save her life because she was not competent and well enough to do it on her own. The same woman is the same person who rejected her own sister, who's an attorney, who was willing to step up and be her legal guardian and told her no because I'd rather be an addict. See, what social media does is they remove everything in order to double down on a single narrative. They remove all of the moving and working elements in order to rush to an emotional narrative out of support of their favorite shock jock gossip queen. You can't do that because we got too much information now. There's too much autopsy on the situation now. We have all this stuff now chronicled. So you bring it all in together to make it make sense. Ray says, CTV, what I don't understand is why are people screaming free Wendy when it's clear she's better because she's regulated? Because it's fandom, irrationality. And this is the problem, right? And this is like the stark contrast between love and like. I would never trust nobody who likes me. Only those who love me. Those who like me are going to be my enablers. Those who like Wendy are going to say free Wendy, even though Wendy said she wanted to be free to be an addict. The people who love her, aka her sister, are going to say, ain't your mama. Sit your ass down. We going to love you by taking care of you and prioritizing what's best for you, which is sobriety. That's love. That's why, because everybody been saying, where's Wanda? Where's Wanda? You know why Wanda ain't entered the goddamn group chat yet? Because that's what love looks like. She knows too deep in her heart that her sister is better off where she at. And once again, this ain't a perfect scenario. Because of the strictness, Wendy is not happy emotionally, even though she's well as she can be physically. So the free Wendy, baby, that's all out of fandom. That's all out of irrationality. It's all out of this champion behind a fave and not actually contextualizing the situation at hand. So because, well, actually, that's not true. Because Funky Dineva's brother, who he's the legal guardian for, is a regular person. and he's living a very regulated, regimented lifestyle, whether that's at the hands of Funky or at the hands of the nursing facility that Funky has appointed, or etc. Yes, guardianship programs, dependent upon situations, can end up this restrictive if people around that person that claim to love them are reckless. And we just went over why Sabrina has doubled down on her strictness. And like Tommy said, it's up to the family to undo that damage, because Sabrina tried to be very open in the beginning. She allowed her to have the people she know personally as her personal assistances, as her drivers, as her etc. And all these people were fucking her over financially. They were fucking her over when it comes to feeding her alcohol and feeding her addiction, etc. because they were not strong enough to be scolded by her. So Sabrina has been let down. She's done her part in the beginning. Now, hopefully, Sabrina is open, for a redo. Hopefully, she allows the people who, they might be an extension of a failed system, a failed family system of Wendy, but they themselves might not have been enablers. And hopefully Sabrina is open to giving them the opportunity, to change her mind so that the guardianship program and the family can work together instead of one system working independently over another. And that would be in the best interest of Wendy, and it would be in the best interest of the relatives that actually do love her. So, once again, I agree with Tommy, baby. The family better get it together, girl. Y'all playing on Sabrina's chessboard. And Sabrina does seem like she is willing to consider some things. She greenlit Wendy going down there for her son's graduation and being down there for almost 2 weeks. So Sabrina is, despite the public narrative, she is someone who seems like she can be communicated with. Like, she's someone you can appeal to. But people also have to remember Sabrina has a job to do as well. So I understand why Sabrina got to send Wendy down there with handlers as well. Because, she knows that what happens to Wendy is also a reflection of her. She's got a job to fucking do. She got a job to do. She's an attorney herself, and she's been appointed legal guardianship over this woman by a judge. A judge appointed Sabrina. Sabrina didn't appoint herself. A judge appointed her. The judge kind of shady as well, but, here nor there at this point. At this point, the situation comes down to the fact that Wendy is well, that wellness is birthed out of the conservatorship. Wendy would like more access to her family, and Sabrina and the family should work in unison at this point to make that happen. And that's going to largely be determined upon how the family play chess. How they play chess. Latifah and Wendy, but yeah, that doesn't mean I'm going to agree with the shit he say every day. Yes, you don't have to agree. This is not an echo chamber, baby. And once again, ultimately, yes, hashtag free Wendy. For me, that may mean something different than, because I don't know what that means for China. If China, I don't know what China means by free Wendy. I ultimately stand by free Wendy too. If free Wendy means Wendy being safe, and I don't care who can administer that safety, long as she can be safe, whether it's the guardianship, whether it's her family, or whether it's a combination of both. I don't have any discrepancy in that. Whomever ultimately is that person, if it just means Wendy being safe and Wendy being able to have a fair shot to live out the rest of her life well and without addiction, so that she doesn't exacerbate all of her pre-existing issues now. Yes, free Wendy. Free Wendy. Like I said, hopefully Sabrina and the family can work together better, and they can take the advice of Tommy and get this thing together, and whatever they can do legally, try to do, but ultimately the New York guardianship program is really fucked up right now, so they are totally at the mercy of the courts. So now their best option is they got to play chess on Sabrina's terms. Now, do y'all have any questions before I haul out of here? I didn't get a chance to look at the chat, y'all, because a lot of times when I'm commentating, y'all, I can't also look at the chat because it'll distract me. It'll slide me to the left. So I have to, just be focused. So I don't look at the chat while I'm commentating. Sometimes I'll glaze over, but I, am not like completely present when the chat is active because it'll distract me from my commentary. Does anybody have any statements? Any questions? Thank you, Todd. Thank you. Excellent job, Conscious. Sarita says, I don't think it's all fandom. I'm not a fan. I think it's the no phone, no pets, and seeing her dad. Okay, so see, so that's what hashtag Free Wendy means for some people. And once again, it means different things. So if that's what it means, then yes, because I am Free Wendy too, but not Free Wendy as in like fuck the guardianship, because that would be disingenuous considering that I like the results so far. But Free Wendy meaning like let the guardianship and family work together, and Wendy have access to her family and time with her son and her dad, and her just being able to also live well with her money. And if there needs to be some partial involvement on the guardianship part to keep an overall eye out on things, I'm cool with that. If that's what they gotta look like, then that's cool. Ultimately, there can be some flexibility in the situation. Wendy doesn't deserve per se to be trapped in a closet, but given all that we know, given that the family cried out to the courts too, they participated in Wells Fargo initiating a financial guardianship that led ultimately to an overall guardianship, given that Wendy wanted to be an addict and she was struggling to overcome her adversities. I can understand the concern with the guardianship's perspective on exactly who is safe outside of them, because once again, this system felt Wendy prior to the guardianship's intervention. And even when Sabrina came into the situation and greenlit a documentary, only to find out that her own employees and friends in her life for X amount of years, people that had been in her life and been adjacent to her, were also feeding her drugs and addiction, like Sabrina shut that shit down. And was just like, okay, no, baby, like I don't know, baby, because at the end of the day, baby, y'all are the family. But at the same time, girl, this is my professional fucking job. And it looks like Sabrina is looking at herself like a nurse. Like, baby, I got to do what I got to do, bitch, on my shift. I can't worry about y'all, because also, like, I have a job to do, and not doing that job or whatever happens to this patient on my watch, it happens on my watch. And so once again, they need to tether together, baby, and work it on out. What's going on, Team Kansas? I agree with that. Facts. I'm not Free Wendy to go back to harming herself. Facts, Conscious. Okay. Does anybody want the link super quick? I can dedicate maybe 30 minutes. I feel really good about this commentary. I'm so glad I came upon Attorney Simone, and I actually listened to the live stream, because some of the information that she gave, it helped me to bring all my shit together. It's so funny how I was led by the spirit yesterday. I was like, something was like, do this part one deep dive. Like, do this deep dive. So between everything that I remembered and got informed about in my deep dive yesterday, and then the information that Attorney Simone Redwine had provided, it was just like, oh, it brought it all full circle for me. It brought everything. It synchronized everything. And once again, Wendy's situation is literally a combination of a bunch of, like, it's a multifaceted situation culminated by a bunch of variables. It's not one thing at work here. It's not the guardianship against the family. It's not the family against the guardianship. It's not Wendy against Wells Fargo. It's a combination of all of it. All of it worked together to bring about the very interesting, controversial current circumstances of Wendy. Lisa says the family must comply with efforts to keep Wendy safe. If she hadn't shut her sister down, she would have been with her. That's crazy, man. That is fucking crazy. God damn it. That is just so nuts. It's so nuts. I'm gonna drop the link. It's so nuts. Like, the courts got exacerbated by the concerns of not just Wells Fargo, but like the petition says, by outside third parties. Various members of her inner circle. And they gave Wendy the opportunity to have a say-so and to say, okay, girl, prove to us that you competent. Prove to us that you in your right state of mind. And this motherfucker gonna say, I don't want my sister to be my guardian because I prefer to be an addict. Girl, Wendy didn't stand a chance, bitch. Wendy did not stand a goddamn chance, y'all. It's just like, girl, this could not have been more affirming on behalf of the guardianship, on behalf of Wells Fargo, than what it was. I mean, it was a doubling down for me. It was a doubling down for me, child. All right, so I think that clears us. We had our 2-hour mark, you guys. This was a great commentary. I hope that you guys, if you need to listen to this like over and over again, because I know, I brought a lot home, but I brought the full picture to you all. I brought the full picture to you all in this commentary. So if you got to listen to it again and again and again and again and again, in order to bring it all in, then do that. I am very clear now at this point about what's going on in the Wendy Williams situation. And it feels good to be clear about it, baby, because this thing initially was a damn jambalaya. It was so goddamn convoluted. It was so damn ratchet and just complex. And it was so much going on that we got Jonathan in the building. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Conscious.
Hi.
I've been gone for a minute now. I'm back with the jump off.
Jump off on period. Welcome back to the light, sister.
Yeah, I had to pop in this morning and listen to this because, the whole situation with Wendy, it's just sad. It's sad. Like, girl, you went from being like the number one gossip bitch, like the number one, had all the tea, all the info, all the commentary on all the hot topics. Like, you were basically the black head hopper of your era, knowing everything and anything about all the celebrities. And now you over here not able to have, now you're over here in some facility somewhere with people unable to call you because they don't have your number.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you can get in contact with them are the days that your guardian allows you to have your phone. And that your mind is working right enough for you to remember their numbers. It's a sad, sad state of affairs.
Baby, it's so funny. I remember back when that seizure situation happened, and I remember.
Are we talking about when she was dressed as Lady Liberty and the devil took hold of her, and that 8-ball that she had under that chair almost took her to Jesus?
My God, today. My God, today. Because remember, that's when Queen's Court was happening, and they was like, girl, we coming for that chair, Wendy. Me and the king for that chair, child. I'm just
girl, that commentary will forever be iconic.
But look at how even symbolic that thing was, Jonathan.
If that wasn't a wake-up call for her, I don't know what should.
But look at the symbolism of it. A queen with her crown on literally falling. How synchronistic and prophetic just was that? That was like prophetic foresight. Like there
It
was
was.
like
It was her. It was the spirit telling her she needed to calm down, and
or
she didn't want to listen.
stay down.
Right.
That she
And now look where
was
she
gonna
at.
fall and get back up if she kept it up.
Now I will say this. Do I think the conservatorship that she is in is taking advantage of her or being extreme in their measures? Maybe a little bit.
Oh, of
Maybe
course.
a little bit,
We
you
all agree
know.
with that. Yeah.
Like, you know,
It's
they're
not like they're
but you
acting
know,
over.
nuance and context really matters in this situation. Do I feel like, because I didn't actually hear the entire interview that she did with Charlamagne. I
Yeah.
just heard like a few little snippets or whatever. I heard the part, and I didn't make it through your entire commentary
Oh, you got to go back,
from the
John.
I know I gotta go back. I gotta go back. I was
Hold
listening
on.
to it last night, but I fell asleep.
Even if you only go back in this commentary, like this commentary brought everything in. So this commentary right here is enough if you just go back.
But it is, I don't know. It reads some there are some things when it comes to her family that don't seem quite right. And there are some things when it comes to this lady who is basically in charge of her life that don't seem quite right either. You know, it's just kind of like, remember how when Brittany was in her conservatorship with her dad, and they had that, I don't think it was a documentary, but they had some like behind the scenes stuff filming, like when she was filming like the womanizer video and stuff like that. And you was watching him make her cheese grits and stuff. Even then, the vibe of that, something about that didn't seem like everything was copacetic.
Yeah.
Based on Brittany's, you know, her body language and just the way that she was talking in those behind the scenes interviews. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of feels the same way with Wendy. Now, on the flip side, could it just be that Wendy called Charlamagne on a good day when her mind was clear, and she called back on another good day when her mind was clear?
Because let's be super honest. Because I know, you know, like yes, she quantifiably definitely sounds
100% like she ain't got nothing wrong with her.
No. I ain't gonna say that. She does sound quantifiably better. But
okay, lucid. Let's say lucid. She sounds lucid.
But I think because she sounds so much better than she has and where we last saw her in the documentary, that what we also are doing is kind of like hyper romanticizing what we heard. Because if you really go back and listen to the interview, she's also like fumbling.
She sounds in distress.
Yeah, like, well, not just distress. You can just still see like she still gets like stuck, like in terms of what I'm doing right now, like she's
like she pausing a little too much.
Yeah, like she's pausing. She's excuse me, and you can tell she at times she was trying to go somewhere.
It's that baby listen thing that crackheads do. Like, baby listen,
it
baby.
Was definitely giving. Yes, it was like giving a high functioning crackhead. That's what it was giving. That's what it was giving.
Oh no. Oh Lord, my God, today.
Very high functioning crackhead.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what we know in terms of those are they are only high functioning until they are not.
Yes. And as somebody who cared for a 94-year-old man who had frontotemporal dementia, I think that Jonathan had lost his connection. My grandfather had his days as well. If you talk to him on certain given days, you would think he was fully competent and he was okay. And he had more lucidity on some days, and you know, he was spiraling on other days. As the attorney said, it definitely is not given consistency, and it's not a lucidity that is everlasting. You just have bouts of lucidity. Hey, you back?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so like what we saying is she very well might be sundowning like at the end of The Notebook. You know, she
Yeah.
might be completely lucid. She might have those 8 to 10 hours of lucidity, and by the time the sun goes down, she don't know who she is again.
And once again, a big chunk of her lucidity also comes from the fact that they are making sure she gets her meds. Her meds.
Well, and that's true too. And that's very true too. And I mean, I had, my grandfather, struggled for the last like 10 or 15 years of his life with Parkinson's and some dementia as well. And that was very hard to watch because, even on days where he would be lucid or whatever,
Yeah.
they still won't be fully lucid. Like they'll say something or they'll bring up something that they know we done already discussed or whatever. And then you have to keep reminding them, like, no, we already did that.
Yes, God. We already washed your ass, Grandpa.
Or no grandpa. Grandma is not here. Grandma has gone on to glory. She been gone, sir. Like she been gone.
Grandpa, your auntie, you talking about your great auntie, baby? She with the Lord. She not in your room. She didn't come see you yesterday, baby. Oh yes, it was very fascinating to watch. To watch the symptoms of FTD, dementia, Alzheimer's do what they do. It's very interesting. I learned a lot.
Well, it's also interesting to me how the family is so divided. Because you got the brother on the one hand saying she needs to be in this guardianship. She's not capable of taking care of herself. She's not in her right mind. And then it seems like from the niece's point of view, nah, they got my auntie locked up, free my auntie.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, and I really wonder what the behind the scenes motivation is behind some of that. Because I'll put it to you this way. I wish my family
love and coin.
Yeah, and that is true. I wish my family had actually taken it upon themselves to put my younger brother in something like that when he started crashing out and spinning off the rails before he wrecked his life. And for me, it's like there are two types of enablers. There are enablers that will go and give you the things that you are requesting to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And there are enablers that will just sit back and not do anything and just let you do that shit to yourself.
Yep.
So,
and both of them are equally damaging. Both types of enablers are equally problematic as fuck. And like I said about the woman who's her handler right now, Sabrina, she watched that documentary with the rest of us and saw that the people that she allowed Wendy to appoint to be around her were enabling her. They were feeding her alcohol and everything. So I understand Sabrina's reservations because she has a job to do.
And in slight defense, those people that were doing that she was paying were probably doing that shit to keep being paid. Because you're like,
see how Wendy bullied that poor woman who was working for her. That PA, baby, she was abusive to that one. I was like, oh, baby, this couldn't be me, baby. I couldn't even take this type of shit. The way that Wendy talked and berated and insulted that woman, I was like, my God. And you could tell that woman was you could tell she didn't have a backbone to begin with. So she was unfortunately falling for the okie dokie. And to your point, she wasn't thinking more so about Wendy's best interest. She was trying to keep her job. And that's
exactly
the problem.
That's also why people who are in conservatorship like that are not allowed to have self-appointed people like that around them. That's why the conservators generally are the ones that pick those, because they know, because then it's a matter of, okay, well, yeah, you don't work for her, you work for me.
Right.
Like, I'm in charge of her money. I make the decisions here. Like, she could tell you to go buy her alcohol all day long if she wants to. She could tell you that you fired. You're not fired until I tell you you're fired.
Right. That part. So I don't care how mad her ass get. I don't care how nasty she get. I don't care what come out of her goddamn mouth or what threats are. I'm your boss, baby. Okay. I'm your overseer. So don't worry about her. But that's what that woman was worried about. I want to bring in Shauna to the platform. Hey, Shauna.
Morning, y'all. How y'all doing?
Good morning.
Good.
Well, how are you?
Oh, just fine, just fine. I just got here, so I'm not gonna.
Oh, girl, you got to go back to the beginning.
No.
I tied this thing up so
I know,
well.
I know you did. I know you.
The way I brought it all in together, it was wonderful.
I just have a couple questions.
Mhm.
Or what? The first question is: did you see the Jason Lee interview?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, that's really good. I highly recommend because, in my opinion, I'm just making a statement. It's that interview was even better than the other two. She sounded more like herself.
Yeah.
And this one, it's really good. So I'll help you.
Okay, so like when you say really good, like what were the takeaways for you?
Well, she went back to a couple of her monikers, if that's the right word. Like she didn't say how you do it, but it was kind of her phrases. It was little flashes of Wendy's old personality. She wasn't just yeah, Wendy, right. And I think I'm not pretending to know the extent of her issue, but I think isolation and all of a sudden being able to talk to people who she knows and loves also I think contributes to how she comes off in those two interviews we've heard her talk, extensively. I mean, even one was 15, one was 30 or whatever. So it seems like each one got maybe a little bit better, but I think there is something wrong. No, I think that decades of alcohol abuse, you're not going to come out,
see, Shauna, the
cocaine
and all the tea we got over the years about her being how unresponsive, passing camera in and out of it's proof, baby.
Yeah, you're not gonna come out okay.
Wendy
at 60-something years old.
She was a disempowered woman. And that's why she ended up here. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So
how do you feel about her? How do you feel about Wendy playing right into this thing by telling her sister that she didn't want her to be her guardian because she wanted to be an addict?
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it does. I don't know too many addicts. Well, okay. Let me take that back. I don't know any addicts, but the idea of being an addict, you're choosing whatever your drug of choice or whatever over everything, and that's how you hit rock bottom because your choice has always been that. So that's not shocking. That's shocking. That's not shocking at all. That seems pretty on point with somebody who's an addict.
The fact that Wanda has not been heard from yet because people have been like, where's Wanda? I'm like, Wanda ain't gonna say nothing because Wanda low-key agrees that
she probably does.
Two evils is where she at.
And you know what also, so did you watch the documentary, the Where's Wendy?
Yes.
Did you watch that? Okay, there's one point that really it could be editing. That hit me, and I was like, "Ooh." They asked at one point in time. They asked Wanda if she wanted to be the guardian or something to that effect, and she paused, and she's like, "Well, what do they do?" And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
She's like, "I don't know what that entails." And granted, we don't know what kind of attorney. For all we know, she's a real estate attorney, or she's we don't know what kind. Somebody should look that up. Just so we can just put that to rest of assuming she needs to be intertwined more than that she has the knowledge more than we might assume. Maybe she doesn't. Okay, just because you're an attorney that you don't know everything. What's that?
And who you speaking of now? Who you speaking of?
Oh, Wanda.
Oh, Wanda. Okay.
Yeah, Wanda. Just because she's an attorney doesn't mean she knows everything.
No, apparently she works according to attorney Simone Redwine. It's like a family civil attorney, so she works with children. And she disenfranchised people, the homeless, and all that.
Interesting. I wonder how that would relate to
that's
whatever.
I was saying Wanda would have been perfect. Like she,
that's what saying how that would relate.
As a legal guardian, But once again, it was because she's not gonna let her be an addict. She's not gonna let her drink. That Wendy was like, hell no, bitch. And then,
and also, I don't think she probably doesn't want to.
No,
to be honest with you.
No. It's in the court filings. She wanted to.
Did she?
Yeah, she stepped up to be the Guardian. Wendy
Okay.
posted.
Okay.
No, and then and said no because she said
Right.
Wendy was not going to be able to drink. She had a
Right.
whole care
Yeah.
plan for her
Okay.
sister, and Wendy was like, "Nah, yeah, I'm good on that."
Yeah. I get that part. And also, I think when having these types of discussions, I think it's really important to delineate. I'm not saying you're not doing it, but in
Yeah.
general, for people who are listening, commenting, to delineate what we're actually fighting for. Are we fighting? Because you said, are we fighting for her not to have any guardianship, or to get her out of the situation?
Because for all of y'all who forgot, this is the queen of she should be able to die and blow her money and be on drugs and I mean, so how do you feel now? Are you still there, or
no? Yeah, people should be. Yeah, if you want, because there are people who do it every day.
Okay,
so but I mean, just the fact that she is fortunate enough to be able to get assistance.
Hold on, can you just explain that to me? So, like, because there are people who do not have anybody fighting for them and advocating for them, and are being allowed to succumb.
Right.
Drugs means that people should be allowed to spiral in life. Isn't that exactly what's going on with like the homeless population in LA and New York and all these people that have been
right. I think that's a different setup with that in my opinion.
Because
I disagree.
Because in that attitude, you just basically multiplied a bunch of Wendy's, and so you can look at all the spiral people fall under that category of people who permitted to spiral.
But I think when you take away people's resources, they don't have any housing, and you're not helping them government wise. We're not talking about friends and family, because you cannot have friends and family and still survive.
Yeah.
But if you're
talking about like severely impaired by mental and neurological disease. So you need a handler.
Right. You need, yes, that's what the government's supposed to be for. But when they shit on you, it's like, I mean, what else are you supposed to do?
Could I interject a little?
What's that?
Could I interject a little on this subject?
Yeah.
So my thoughts on when it comes to, I agree with what you're saying, Conscious. It is kind of that same thing when people are like, oh, this person want to be an addict. They want to be on drugs. Just let them be on drugs. That is kind of the same mindset that they do with a lot of the homeless people. I feel like why this didn't used to be a problem back in the day is because we used to have state-funded hospitals in places that you could actually send people who were obviously severely mentally ill. Now, granted, those places were not, a lot of those places weren't shit. If you've ever seen any movies like The Snake Pit or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or any movies that deal with like mental hospitals, most of those places were run horribly.
Yeah.
And objectively, you could say those people suffered more being there than not. But however, it was still a place for them to be where they were looked after to a degree.
And they were
fed, and they were kept from terrorizing the general population of people as they do now. I think the biggest mistake the government ever made was to completely defund those state-run mental hospitals. Because we don't have anything, we don't have state-funded mental hospitals. Hell, I think we barely have state-funded mental, we have state-funded, state-funded rehab facilities. I don't think we have any of those either. So it's the same thing. If you have an addict that doesn't have insurance and doesn't have any money, where are you supposed to send them? This is the same struggle I have dealt with my own brother for many, many years. Because all that happens is the police come, they take him off, they don't take him anywhere. He's able to check himself out. He's able to leave once they release him. And it's back to the same shit. So, and it is not easy to go to a court and get somebody declared mentally incompetent. It isn't. Like you have to have a lot of evidence, and that person has to be on some real fuck shit.
Yeah, they do. It has to be like extreme.
It has to be documented. it has to be documented that this person, you know, is incapable of making their own decisions, whether it's due to addiction, mental illness, all those other kind of things. So I do agree with you on that one. I do believe what we should be as a society looking at is, you know, government funded, state run facilities for people like that, that are not like back in the day where people were being abused and, you know, where the goal is rehabilitation, but the reality is for a lot of people, it's just going to be a place for them to be taken care of and kept safe until they are, you know, until they leave this world.
Yeah, because my thing is, I don't think it's helpful if we, I don't think it's helpful to take anything away from the Wendy situation just because there are people who have not been advocated for.
That's true.
Like, you know, like just because other people have been failed and oh well, poor people don't get this type of intervention and incubating, because the reality is we also are arguing that they should, that, you know, everybody should have access to the resources that can help them and assist them when they are in need. Wendy just happens to be able to be one of those people that was able to get filtered through a guardianship program and been instituted upon. And I mean, personally, I'm not mad at it. I'm really not. I don't want to see Wendy unresponsive in her apartment. I don't want to see her in and out of rehab. And I could only, and now I really understand, keeping in context everything we did yesterday in part one, like that, you know, the family obviously didn't know, once again, the ins and outs of guardianship, but her situation had become so dire and had become so fucked up that they got desperate and they couldn't help her. Because once again, we now know that Wendy wants yes men. That's what the situation with the sister proves.
Well,
That's
and that's what all addicts want,
yeah, that's
unfortunately.
what all addicts want. As we saw how she treated her employees in a way that she tried to bully them into giving her what, you know, she wanted, like that Wendy was not even allowing her family to be there for her either. So they all had to take a united front at some point and cry out to the courts, or else Wendy was going to be found stinking in her apartment. And it just would have been a very souring way to leave, you know, this career that everybody appreciates and values and wants her to reap the benefits of. So allowing her to spiral just could not be the option. And she's better today. And now there just needs to be some loosening and some mediation between the guardianship and the family, and just kind of bridge the gap on that. And let Wendy go on about her very way. But I'm team guardianship right now and team family. I'm team Wendy's
I
well-being.
think I'm at team guardianship in moderation. I think that's where I'm at.
I'm team guardianship wherever is needed. You know,
Okay.
once again, I
I
would be
agree with
lying
that.
too, I would be lying too, Jonathan, if I said I don't have concerns about the family, considering that once again, we know how, like, see, I have to consider this, right? Based upon her rejecting her sister, based upon her bullying her employees into feeding her addiction, now I have this thing. Wendy, yes, of course, she wants to be around her father. Of course, she wants to be in her son's life. I have no doubt about that. At the same time, I also have to consider if a lot of this desire to get out of this guardianship is because Wendy knows that her family is soft like pudding. And she knows also that she'll be able to get her way if she can just get in their hands and she can get the fuck outside of the supervision of this guardianship. She knows maybe that her people are compromisable, that they will slack on their values. The fact that Tommy, her brother, said that the family already, you know, don't be giving a fuck about the optics, which don't make things any better for Wendy, tells me that, you know, it implies that maybe the family is not as mature as I would like to believe they are, despite their cries and their outward, you know, pleads for Wendy to be free because there might be other agendas here, but ultimately they might be weak enough to not be able to stand their ground any more than those employees did. And
Agreed.
so, I have my concerns too, which is why I agree with Tommy that if the family means what they claim they mean, if they mean what the fuck they say, then they would be going about this very differently given the position that they in. But right now, they playing into the narrative. And he harped on Wendy coming down there to Miami for 9 days, and the family was very lit, and they had no social awareness. They had no awareness of the circumstances. And so when all that footage and shit went back to Sabrina, it's no telling what that looked like to her, given that people was turning up. Obviously, it's a graduation. It was a party time for 2 weeks, and they at restaurants, and maybe they at good restaurants, but people ordering alcohol, people ordering drinks, and what does this look like?
Well, one could make the assumption that it's possible that a lot of Wendy's family, by some definition, are addicts themselves, because addiction runs in families like that. And just because it's not a problem for them,
right,
they don't see it as a problem for her, to the extent that any other person looking from the outside in would say that it is.
But you know what? And that is, and we have to consider that. And it's also really crazy that you would have an addict, you would that the family would compartmentalize that way, oh, well, we know we got an addict at the table, but we're going to be serving up drinks to ourselves. Read the room, baby. And once again, she got handlers, and they are filming and recording and reporting everything. It's also just a lack of consideration for Wendy. You don't think that tips her? If you guys are all chucking down wine and chucking down alcohol and ordering bottles of Cristal and whatever, and she's sitting here as a recovering addict of cocaine and alcoholism. I mean, make it make fucking sense.
But again, people are too selfish in their own,
and that's why Sabrina acting the way she motherfucking acting, and I ain't mad at her. Get it together, the Williams. Get it together, because this is insane.
I feel the same way.
The fuck? Yeah, Sabrina doing her job, and I would be doing the goddamn same as well, baby. Y'all can flame me up in public, baby. Y'all can have the headlines. I'm a monster. I'm a handler. I'm a whatever. I got her in a glamorized prison. And bitch, I'm hired and I'm working. My job is to do my job, not to appeal to the court of public opinion, not to appeal to social media.
And
I have
here's
an actual job to do and actual superiors to report to. And this woman blood is on my motherfucking hands. So
that's true.
Y'all won't.
There was something else that occurred to me that I didn't bring up that I wonder if is playing a factor here. There is, depending on the type of drugs that Wendy's been on, because we know she was doing 8 balls every other day. But depending on what other stuff she may or may not have been doing, long-term use of that can cause mental psychosis.
Yes.
And once you reach that level, there really is no coming back from that. So it could also be that she may or may not be suffering from, drug-induced, schizophrenia or bipolar, which could also be explaining some of her erratic behavior, even when she is sober.
It definitely could have been explaining all of that behavior in that damn 4-part documentary, where she wanted to go to the Grammys and the Oscars in her fishnet and Daisy Dukes and her frizzy wig, and she wanted to go back to the Wendy Williams show and be able to pull her wig off in front of the cameras. I mean, Wendy was out of her mind in the documentary. I was like, this is the pure personification of all these issues.
But that's also the problem when it comes to people who've been addicts for long term, because even if you get them clean, their mind never comes back. They may have moments.
Not fully.
No, yeah, their mind doesn't fully come back, if at all. They might have moments, You know, I have a lot of examples of that in my life, whether it be family members or whether it be, you know, spouses of friends that I've known for many years. You know, even if you get them off the drugs, they're still, unfortunately, they're still crazy by all definition.
And you
Because
can
their mind, because their mind no longer works rationally.
and if anybody is really being honest, they know that these 3 interviews were not completely without like some there was like a sprinkle of crackheadness in the interviews, if we're being honest. Like she, to your point, obviously as a result of the drug, she also like has diseases that are the result of the addictions, aka the FTD, and that is a neurological disease. The aphasia, all those things affect the brain and speech and communication and coordination, etc. So
And that's kind of why it bothers me that Charlemagne's attitude is like, she sounds fine. She sounds just like herself.
Don't take your medicine. It's like, are you crazy?
But here's the thing: Charlemagne don't even want to take his own medicine. I wouldn't take no medical advice from Charlemagne, the ever living goddess. Are you crazy?
But it's crazy that the man who won't take his own medicine but telling somebody else not to take their medicine is a advocate for medicine and mental health. Like, make up your mind, Charlemagne the goddess. Make up your mind, baby. You the one
playing a role. He's playing a role.
And see, and that's how you know that should be performance, because it's just like it's not consistent. It's like, what are you doing? And like, why would you exacerbate her fears? And she's in a situation that obviously has her well enough for her to be doing these goddamn interviews all day. Like, it's
That's
weird.
my thing. If you were so concerned about her, why wouldn't you be asking Wendy the name of her doctor? Why wouldn't you be asking her, like,
he probably doesn't know.
What's the name of the medication you're taking?
She said she didn't know. She said she recognizes 2 pills. Oh, maybe this is on Jason Lee. She said she recognizes 2 pills that she's been taking forever, which is most likely her thyroid medication.
For her Graves' disease.
Right. And the other 7, she said, I don't know what they are. And they don't give you choices. They say take them, and I will watch you take them. So.
And she should take them. And I mean, she does have FTD, so it's like, I mean, I'm sure like most people who are in a situation like that, she hasn't really even bothered to memorize the fucking med she's on. But she does have FTD apparently, so it's like I don't even expect her to be able to tell me what the hell is always going on from moment to moment, especially when she got time to be calling Charlemagne the God 5 times a day, 2 weeks at a time, while the family is claiming that, oh, she's so hard to get in contact with, but she is fluidly on a goddamn phone all day and night.
I'm curious. I'm gonna go watch this probably. That Jason Lee interview, obviously that interview was also a phone interview, I'm assuming. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
But the other thing about the medications can also be, it could very well be a medication that she's been taking for a very long time. It could just be that they don't look the same to her because they are either a generic version of that medication or it is a different compounding. Because I know from my own experience being in a hospital before that not all the medications that I take look the same. It really just depends.
And she
but she knows that she's taking 9 pills versus 2 pills a day. I mean, she knoes the difference between taking 9 pills.
The 9,
right, versus 2 pills.
And she should be taking 9, baby. You have hyperthyroidism, Graves' disease. You have frontotemporal dementia, progressive aphasia, and they are also probably giving you the type of drugs that help you with your sobriety because you were a cokehead and suffer from alcoholism.
Yeah, that's probably a lot of withdrawal medication. Yeah,
you should
if you ask me.
At least 9, I'm sure, given all the things going on with you neurologically and in your body.
Well, and that's true too. You can't, years of having alcoholism, you just can't quit cold turkey. They have to monitor you to an extent so that you don't put yourself into cardiac arrest, from alcohol withdrawal.
Yeah.
Like, if Wendy was an alcoholic, like I think she was.
And that's why I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because it brings to home that like Wendy is still kind of like in denial of just how much she fucked up her shit. Like she's kind of still in denial about how fucked up her body is. Like she's kind of still very like tiptoeing around the things that caused her to be found unresponsive in her apartment or caused her to pass out on live TV and the type of things that had her in and out of rehabs and in and out of mental health facilities that led to her show being fucking canceled. Like she's very in denial about recognizing that girl. Like, first of all, this stuff played out very much so publicly, and it's interesting that you're giving commentary about Sabrina and the guardianship, but you're giving no commentary about the extraordinary set of circumstances that your choices and your health put your entire legacy in. Where is the actual onus and the emphasis on that? And the fact that Wendy refuses to go into a dissertation about all of that, but wants to magnify the end results of all of that, which is guardianship and all these restrictions, baby. We got to talk about a whole lot of things before we get to your guardianship, sister. We're not going to act like your guardianship just fell out of the sky. We ain't going to act like it just fell out of the sky, girl, as if the same person who I read in quotations in my breakdown yesterday, who literally said, I've been so open about all of my bouts with my health. Exactly. So then how you sitting here questioning why you on 9 damn meds?
You know what? I think again, back to this, the most recent interview. I think she could completely say that, and it seems like she'd be 100% willing. This is what's at the forefront right now. Accountability can or will come later, hopefully, but what's at the forefront is feeling like she's in prison and she needs help, because that's all she kept saying in that interview. And I need you to help me.
Yeah, and her help is emotional need. She actually is being helped. She's being like, the state don't have a lot of nuance. They're like masculine and mechanical in that way. Like we're focused on your actual physiological health. Now, your like preferences are not so much as our priority. Your you know, like whatever, you kind of fucked that up, Wendy, when you told us.
But they should be their priority, because a person is emotional, spiritual, and physical.
I'm not saying like that they're not, but that's also what they don't do. And they don't all of a sudden do that just because our favorite is in a situation. They don't recognize the spirit. They don't recognize the soul. A medical doctor deals with your medical.
I think once you're out of, go ahead.
Now your therapist can possibly pivot into metaphysics and your emotional needs, but your doctors and the situation that's at hand, this guardianship solely centers around her physiological issues, not per se her therapeutic or her emotional needs. I mean, she's being treated like all patients are treated. On the floor. I mean, you know.
Okay. Yeah. No, I concur to a certain degree, but I think it is, if you're going to isolate, if you're going to care for somebody, you get them physically as a hospital professional, physically get them out of harm's way. But then on the way to recovery, you have to address all of the person, not just the part that's broken. All of it.
That's the part that I don't want y'all to forget. Her team has been enablers, and that's why I pulled up the Wells Fargo letter. They have a sealed docket where they disclosed the inner members of Wendy's circle who also corroborated the fact that she is in dire need for full-on guardianship. They were only petitioning initially for financial, but once the family got involved and Wendy's production team got involved and people started participating or took the opportunity that Wells Fargo had going on with their financial guardianship consideration, then it became a bigger thing. So, you know, has been a questioning over over the wellness of her community. And that's why there are limited access to them. I mean, are these people financially abusing her? That came up in the financial guardianship petition by Wells Fargo. Then you have the employees, you have all these people that were feeding her drugs, etc., feeding her alcohol, and then you got the brother admitting that yes, we are, like, people are around here partying it up, doing things that definitely look optically lopsided as fuck, and it's not helping the situation. And so it's not just a matter of like this guardianship, just choosing to just be restrictive for the sake of restrictive. It's like there's other kind of complicated matters going on, and the family, according to other family members, isn't doing all that can be done to make the courts confident in the fact that it's okay for her to have access to the thing she wants, aka her family, because the family not all on the same page in terms of how we should play this. And there's too many things that appear to be problematic that is being done that's placating to the issue at hand of Wendy wanting more access to her family. And we can't remove that off the table because that's coming out of the literal family. That's coming out of the family. The family is criticizing the family. It's not just the courts working against everybody and shacking her down to her scooter and just saying for the hell of it, no, you can't go nowhere, you can't talk to nobody, you can't be with nobody. Now, she is talking to everybody. She got a phone that she can call Charlamagne on 5 times a goddamn day, 2 weeks straight. She's talking to her niece, Alex, all the time. No, she can't have no inbound calls. She can make outbound calls. But in terms of her leaving that facility and going out of town and catching planes and being around her family, and there's been all this stuff around financial discrepancies and alcoholism and what the hell is really going on, and her telling the courts that she prefers to be a fucking addict. It's like all that goes into restricting Wendy ultimately really from herself. That's really what they're really protecting her from, is herself. Because Wendy has existed and expressed enough to convince the courts, and really should have said enough and convinced us that if Wendy could have it her way, she would want the world that Shauna wants for her. I want the right to spiral in this motherfucker.
No, that's not what I want. No. Don't put that's not what I want.
Addiction free, baby.
No, don't put words in my mouth. That's not what I want. I want the best for everybody. I'm a humanitarian at heart.
Woman is loose, baby. Wendy want to be loose, and
right. No, I think if someone's willing to advocate for me, I'm going to let them. Yes. But if no one's willing to, it's not shocking that if no one's willing to advocate for me, that I spiral and I should be allowed to spiral. If people are going to let me spiral.
And that's
the point is,
the thing about her set of circumstances now is that the law has been put in place to advocate for her.
Right. I'm not saying she shouldn't have a guardianship. I'm not saying that at all. That's what my point was a little bit I was trying to get to, is that it's people are getting the argument free Wendy means a lot of things. And I think we all can't argue our point when what the definition of free Wendy in our own mind is all different. So my free Wendy is get her out of this guardianship because I think it's predatory. Because did you get my email about I care a lot? Well, you even read about that one man who was just a regular Joe who, got a $5 million settlement, and how these people came in. And that's what I'm concerned about. That's what the attention.
But I did read in my part 1 yesterday towards
the end,
I had read some horror stories out loud.
That's what I'm talking about. I listened to that. I heard that. That's what I'm talking about. I think she's in the same situation as they are. That's my point. Those predatory, and how it's becoming conservatorship.
It hasn't been proven she's being preyed upon. It's only
no, you're right.
It's only right.
It's getting the appearance.
Public and social media conjecture because
right. No,
in a heavily restricted scenario for her own well-being.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, it's true.
It hasn't been any proof of fraud. It hasn't been any proof that her bank account has been dried up. No proof of financial abuse. It's we only dealing with a well-known public figure who doesn't like the fact that she's living a very restricted life at this point. Once again, due to her own choice situation,
I agree.
Her own admissions and her own. When it was given the opportunity to reverse all of this thing, she walked dead smack into it by rejecting her family as her guardian because she wanted to be addicted to alcohol.
Right. Yeah,
I
and
mean,
just because
I
she
don't know how
deserves
much y'all expect me to have like, what I'm supposed to say to that?
no, just because no, I agree. She deserves to be in the predicament she is to a point. And it's there's checks and balances. There's once a person is coming is physically out of harm, which she is now, she has the right to say, I want my
But
like
there,
Britney Spears, I want my own
no,
lawyer to advocate for me. You
look,
are not, because we already what we do know is that these people are all in the same circle. And just like that conservator yesterday was saying, how she tried to get into a group, and they're like, no, we already have our group of people. They work in tandem to take advantage of people. And I'm just saying, look at this situation. This situation is definitely worth looking at
no.
and
My
getting
issue
attention.
with the public is the public didn't even care as much about Wendy when she was out here falling around and seizuring out and in and out of rehab facilities, more so now that that she's in a regulated situation and sounds really fucking good. And because she's complaining, all of a sudden there should be a congressional hearing and then a removal of all of the factors that got her into the situation to begin with. Like, the public was not advocating when she could not sustain doing the Wendy Williams show, when it ultimately was canceled, when, all these things were transpiring outside of a guardianship. You didn't hear nothing from the public advocating for, oh, you're like she needs help. She needs, like, there should be some, there was nothing. Like, there were just headlines and people just crying for Wendy to get better so that she can come back to a podcast or their television screen and entertain them. That's why I don't entertain the public and take the public seriously, because the public is dumb and shallow and superficial, and they do not love Wendy. And I don't care how much how much collectively the Wendy Williams like fan base tries to go up in hoopla, because Britney Spears fan base did the same thing. And now that her ass out here slicing herself up with butter knives and burning down her kitchen house, and she don't make sense to nobody, everybody wants that same conservatorship system to step their ass back in to seize control of her. So I am not impressed and I am not convinced. And I know how this goes with social media. These folk do not give a fuck. They want to be entertained. That's what they want. Wendy being seemingly in distress is just an opportunity for the people that fan out over her to just be able to advocate and to just be able to have something to stand behind. Ultimately, not because what's good for her is the real question at hand, but getting her back to healing. And if you read all of the comments under so many of the blog posts that are posting about the interviews, etc., there are people like, let this woman come back to TV. Let her come back to TV. Let her come back to radio. Let her come back. We miss this voice. We miss this. And I'm just like, yeah. Please telling yourselves, this is so very telling. But see, because what Wendy did, and because she was given an opportunity to have her family interceded and she forfeited that, now the state, regardless of what her family want and regardless of what we want, gets to decide what the hell is best. And Wendy can petition and request this, that, and the third, but ultimately she gave up the rights to make those decisions herself when she refused to allow her family to step in when they had the opportunity to guardianship for her. And yes, once again, I mean, I have to acknowledge this is an imperfect system, but I mean, what am I supposed to say? That she walked her ass right on into all of this in every single way, shape, and form. And her being upset that she can't be as close to her family. I don't know how much that should take priority over the question that continues to really hover over the situation, which is what is really best. And are these people she wants to have access to well enough? But however, I will say this, given that when Wendy visits, she still has monitoring spirits around her. I mean, allow the monitoring spirits to have a say so. I mean, allow them to, assess the situation. And in tandem with what Tommy said, the family needs to placate to that, because maybe that will help to lift some of the tension and some of the concern. But the family definitely have to do their part to present themselves as a total safe space. And if they need to, for the time being, when she's there visiting, for a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, half a month at a time, whatever it is, if they got to give up alcohol, because once again, cameras going to be on. Handlers and monitoring spirits are going to be about. If they have to just reduce what they need to reduce on their end so that they can get more of what they want, that's what the fuck they should do. But I would like to see Wendy have access to her family. But once again, it's not the court's decision to decide. And based upon all the circumstances that are considered here, I mean, they got their reasons to believe that they got their reasons until shit look better. And the brother is crying out for the family to make it look better than what it does. And I really respect Tommy for being able to like bring indictment to his own community and say, we can do better. We aren't doing better. This is an optic game. And hell, if I was on the other side, I probably would think the same thing looking in. So it can't just be like, you know, it's like if the public really want to stand for Wendy, it's like hold her accountable, hold her family accountable. Because Tommy also said that, you know, he confronted Wendy when she brought it up. She was like, look, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see my father for his 94th birthday because of the bullshit that went down for 9 days. And that shit may come back to haunt me. And he was like, yeah, it fucking might. And it don't make sense that we're acting the way we're acting under these circumstances because we're being monitored. And everything we do matters to the guardianship situation. And now you may not be given the privilege of seeing us and seeing your dad because we all dropped the ball, including you, Wendy, including me, Tommy, including, look at Justin Bieber, including your son and everybody else. Did you want to get in here, Jonathan?
Yeah, I had one question
Mhm.
I wanted to ask. In any of the interviews, did she describe the type of facility that she is in? Because that had me wondering too, just in terms of this this conservatorship and this guardianship. Like, obviously she's in some type of care facility,
Yes.
you know, type nursing
It's
home,
a building.
rehabilitation.
It's a building. It has a lobby. It has an administration at the bottom, and it requires like passcodes and cards in order to even get off the floor. When I was listening to Attorney
But
Simone,
is she describing it as like horrible conditions, or is she living in like
no.
some sort of luxury care facility?
Well, no, she definitely not describing it as a luxury, but she ain't describing it as Afghanistan either. Like, you know, she's like, her big thing with the facility is the fact that she's just on the floor with people who she feel like are actually fucked up and incapacitated. And she just feel like, I don't deserve to be here. Like,
Well, that's like when you're on the floor. That's like when you're in the hospital and you're on the floor with the geriatric patients and you're like under 40 and you're like, why am I on this floor and everybody is like 65 or older?
Mm-hmm.
And she's isolated. That's also, I mean, that and apparently
That's very
she
true.
can't leave her room unless, you know, somebody unlocks it. I don't know.
And apparently, when I was listening to Attorney Simone platform, she said that Wendy is in a memory care facility, which is
yeah,
like,
it's a lockdown, right?
Yeah, it's a lockdown because
because they don't want you wandering off.
Because a lot of those patients have neurological issues. Yeah, they have to keep your ass from roaming and accessing cases and things like that, injure you or cause you to be lost.
Right.
Because like even when we care for my grandfather at home, like we had to like be able to double lock the front door from the inside as well, because sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night and just like want to just walk out into the community in his damn pamper and his walker at like 3 a.m. in the morning. So we had to install like a double padlock from the inside. Not a double padlock, but whatever you call like the locks, where it also requires a key to leave the front door. You can't
a bolt, a deadbolt, a bolt lock or something.
A deadbolt or whatever it is. Yeah, like we had to do that because and then we had to like to take the knobs off the stove, because sometimes he would think he is at good cooking age and would go around there and want to turn the stove on. So we had to like really situate the environment in order to make it appropriate for
Well,
his situation.
and in those type of memory care facilities, it makes sense why the patients aren't allowed to exit their own rooms without somebody letting them out of those rooms.
Yes.
That's a personal safety thing for the patients themselves, because patients with those kind of cognitive issues, if they are interacting with each other, can be harmful
It can be, yeah.
to each other.
I will say
Even
from
when I
experience.
worked in a community care home,
Yeah.
like some of the patients at times, depending on what type of day it was and what the situation was today,
What the time of day it was.
sometimes they had to be restrained to the bed. Like they had to literally be restrained to the bed. And sometimes, like, because they also might have had like an arm injury, but they also have like an equilibrium issue, so they can't, they can't get up and just walk. Like they think, like their brain telling them to just get up and telling them to just walk, and it's like, okay, you literally can't walk. You don't have equilibrium, and you also have an arm injury. So if you fall in attempting to fucking walk, you're gonna double your injury, and all that once again becomes a liability on the facility as well, and on the caregivers as well, who take responsibility for these injuries and these mishaps and these potential deaths that can take place in these places. Also, like in some of the rooms, depending on the situation with the patient, we had to implement cameras in their room, and they had to be surveyed. There had to be somebody who was routinely watching the cameras, and making sure that, if we saw a patient who should not be roaming, who should not be up out of their bed the way they are, can be interceded upon. So it's like a lot that goes on, depending, like you're saying, Jonathan, of the variations of the cognitive issues. Some cognitive issues are worse than others. Some are far more severe. Everybody got a unique situation. So, it's just a lot. So it's just a lot going on.
And maybe there is some room to say that at the point that Wendy was put into this facility, she definitely needed that level of care. And maybe now, because she's properly medicated, because she's in treatment, maybe, I don't know, who knows, maybe they're doing some sort of experimental protocol on her to try to help possibly, maintain her level of clarity or whatever. Maybe because she's been more I lost the word, coherent as of lately, that she's aware that, like, she feels like she doesn't need to be there, because she's like, I'm coherent. Like, why do I need to be here? Why do I need to have
like mental health patients? Is that like, because I'm not gonna say this fool's name, but there's a content creator on YouTube right now who I nicknamed the Scooter Show, and he was just recently imprisoned because of coming off of his meds. And that's interesting to me because I have a cousin who suffers from she's like a manic depressant and a schizophrenic, and I've noticed kind of like universally that when people who suffer from mental health issues are prescribed medicines, sometimes they kind of conflict the situation. They start to feel better, to your point, Jonathan, and then make the next logical step in their mind to get off the meds, not realizing that the reason they're well to begin with is because of the meds. The reason that they're lucid to begin with, the reason why they even have the stability they do, is because of the medicines. But they conflate that with their own personal stability and get off the meds and then spiral.
People do that with their blood pressure medicines. They do it with their diabetes medicine. It's a common.
My mom is one of those people. She suffered from high blood pressure, and she was like a five-time stroke victim. And her doctor told her, Miss Mamas, you got to take your hypertension medicine. Like, you have to do that. You got a blood pressure issue, you got a hypertension issue. My mom was like that too. Like, she had her days where she wanted to take her meds and not take her meds, and then as a result of her being very reckless with her regimen, she ended up having a brain aneurysm due to her blood pressure busting a vessel in her fucking brain and killing her. So
I get it. My brother did the same thing with his anti-rejection meds. He got in a state of depression. stopped taking all his anti-rejection meds and basically ended his own life because his whole body shut down. And that, you know, that is a hard thing to watch when you have someone who just refuses. I mean, I had to watch that with my best friend and her own mother when it came to her diabetes medication. It's really hard to watch a family member or a person that you love make themselves worse
Yeah.
for simply just not following the
Compliance.
routine, a routine for whatever reason.
Yeah. You know what? And I really think the reason is denial. I think that the reason a lot of times is denial. I know a lot of people really kind of suffer in shame from what they believe is a stigma about being sick in any kind of way, whether that's with diabetes or with high blood or with a mental illness. And that stigma that leads to that shame makes people deny that they are not well in some way, shape, or form. And so they try to live as if they're not, which then turns into neglect from the things they need to be doing to treat the reality of the situation, which is whatever their condition is. And then kaboom, you know, there's misfortune. So, you know, it's just like, it's a self-love thing as well. Like, it's a situation where, like, if you get a person, right, who, okay, like, let's take diabetes, for example, right? Like, if you've been in the business of, like, not caring enough to eat better, and you didn't have no, like, you didn't care enough to eat better prior to the manifestation of diabetes, it's going to be very hard then also to get that person to treat the condition when there's already this like foundation of a lack of self-care and self-love there to begin with. Like, the
Absolutely.
problem is, like, I don't love myself to begin with. So now having to love myself enough to take meds is a like self-love thing. Like, I don't love myself enough to do it. That's why my body is crashing out, because I don't love myself. I don't
It's
love
the
myself.
same. It's the same thing with people who have heart attacks. You know, I have, like, you didn't motivate yourself enough to take better care of yourself physically or be more physically active and stuff before you had the heart attack. And now that you've had it, you're still not taking the steps necessary to prevent yet another one.
Yep. And it's sad. It's so sad. And that's why this thing with like Wendy and even like just this topic, that's why like I'm glad we're talking, because this is it's such a nuanced situation. People, like, the public is just looking at a celebrity,
Yeah.
and they're like stripping all of the potential nuance and the apparent nuance that's all up into this situation. This isn't about just setting a celebrity free and etc. I mean, she is a health-stricken woman. She admitted to being health-stricken even before guardianship. She has more issues now as a result of the fact that she hasn't been caring and loving herself. And like every sick adult in our life tells us, right? They tell us, take care of yourself when you're young for a reason. Take care of yourself when you're young. Take care of yourself when you're young, because that shit is going to catch up to you. Wendy situation is catching up to her. It's caught up to her, and she has the luxury, because of her platform, to cry aloud and to kind of whistleblow to the public and to kind of misconstrue the situation and not be as fully honest about everything that's going on, simply because she wants relief emotionally. And, you know, the public is in part going to join forces with her in emphasizing that. But that is also a very nuanced situation too, because her family has a role to play in Wendy. And the fact that the brother had to call out both Wendy and call out the family is crazy, because it's, you know, it's like Wendy is Wendy. She gonna be reckless and she gonna disregard, but like, why we doing it? Because we should know better than her. And this is exactly why they don't trust us and fuck with us now, aka the guardianship. This is why she in a guardianship. And we ain't making shit look no better. We got to do better. So it's just gonna take them all to work together. Like, instead of crying out to the public, ain't shit we can do about a goddamn thing. Like, this is a legal issue. Like, I mean, hashtag free Wendy all fucking day long and see how much that convinces a judge to set her ass free to her 94-year-old father. I mean, really make it make sense. Instead, what the family need to fucking be doing is doing exactly what Tommy said. We need to have a team meeting in this motherfucker, Team Williams, and we need to get together and we need to decide what the one single page we need to be on, because this is our loved one. And she's the one, and we're the one who she gets into the custody of when we do. Therefore, we need to be learning from what we might be indirectly doing to complicate this matter, because we are playing a direct role in some of the bullshit and some of the concerns of the stupid bitch we gotta go through. So let's get our part right. Let's act right. Let's get over ourselves. She's not a free woman. We unfortunately do have to answer to someone else in the situation, and so does she. And because Sabrina don't have a personal relationship to us, we can expect her to look at any footage that comes back to her and be able to compartmentalize it and say, oh, okay, well, that's only Tommy drinking. Oh, that's only Kevin Hunter Jr. drinking. Oh, that's only so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. Because even if she's able to do that, she still has to answer, why the fuck are y'all even drinking in front of recovering addict to begin with? And if y'all are that immature and unconscious, what the fuck else are y'all doing around her? Are you also doing coke? Are you smoking weed? Are you popping pills? Like, what's really going on? And you can't put somebody who already who has the power to decide over everything, who also doesn't have a relationship to nobody in the situation personally, in a position to look at it for what it is at face value and still expect them to render a result that is beneficial to the family and Wendy. You have to play the optic game for those two reasons. She does not know us in order to compartmentalize or to have a sense of what's going on and give us that benefit of a doubt. Benefits of a doubt come from relationship. When a person don't have a relationship to you, all they have is data and what the fuck it looks like. And that's where their judgment is going to be. And then on top of that, this woman, once again, has the key to the city. She has the key to Wendy's shit. So we have to get our shit together. We cannot expect that from this woman. She don't know us. Now, maybe if we start acting right, get on the same page, simplify shit when she come here. Don't be with the turn up and all that shit. Just keep shit clean, man. Let's go to the movies. Let's have a civil dinner. No alcohol at the table. Nobody ordering wine. Nobody ordering liquor. Nobody smoking a blunt, out back. Just keep shit practical. Keep shit pragmatic. Keep shit cool, copacetic. And then let's just build on top of that as we work through the situation. And you can have fun. You don't have to be drinking around a recovering addict to have fun. You don't have to be smoking weed around a recovering addict to have fun.
Well, you know what?
Go to the skating ring. Go to the harbor. Take
That
her out shopping. Sit around and have a movie night, a game night with the family. It don't have to involve no smoking, no weed, no drugs, no liquor, no nothing. Have clean fun. Have simplistic fun, baby. Once again, now this gonna come down to what they want. Because see, they the one who gotta this. Because see, when you really want what you want, you do what you gotta do. Now, when you just doing a bunch of yabba dabba doing, yeah, I won't, but I ain't doing nothing to get. Then I gotta question the sincerity of your wanting. I gotta question the sincerity of your desire. So if the family and Wendy want the same thing, we want access to our loved one. We want her to have the privilege of seeing the family for birthdays, holidays, or whatever. When we come to New York, when we want her to come here, whatever. Then if that's what y'all want, do y'all part. Do your motherfucking part. It's literally just that simple. And look, you talking to a bitch who makes no excuses. You talk to somebody who was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes last March, who as of November of what? This was a week before my birthday. I don't even know what. November the 3rd, reversed type 2 diabetes. It took me a year and a few months. What? I was diagnosed in 2023. Completed reversing in November of 2024. So, and you know what I did when I got out of my hospital? I got out of that fucking ICU that I was in for almost being in a goddamn diabetic coma that I didn't even know I was in, and hit the ground running. Changed my goddamn dietary lifestyle, got on a plant-based diet, gave up the drama in my motherfucking life, centered my motherfucking energy, used that to collaborate with my dietary and exercise choices, and then kaboom. A bitch got taken off all his insulin, his high blood pressure meds, all the shit that diabetes had gave to me. Because I did not make any excuses for myself. So, as somebody who does not make no fucking excuses, if, like, it's hard for me to listen to people say one thing and then you do another. So then you don't want what you're saying if you're doing another. Because people who really want what they want, do what they need to do. And they put more action into walking than they do talking. So if this family and Wendy want to band together, and the bigger responsibility and burden is going to fall on them. Because, see, Wendy already incapacitated. She don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, you know, she's her. She going to be a problem. She going to always want some problematic shit in one way, shape, or form. The bigger burden is going to fall on the family to do their part to make this thing work. And if they don't, then yeah, bitch, y'all ain't gonna never see Wanda into the group chat. Because Wanda, just like Tommy, know what the fuck really going on. Know what's really going on in the situation. But I gotta get out of here, you guys. We at the 3-hour mark. This was a great conversation. Do you guys have any lasting words?
I want to say thank you. keep following this situation. I think it's important for a lot of people to look at the entire picture and discuss. I appreciate you letting us discuss every time it pops up, and I think that's helpful. You know,
I'm gonna listen to that. Once I get off in the shower, I'm gonna listen to the Hollywood Unlocked interview too, because
that's good. That'd be good. Yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about that. Maybe you don't think anything, or maybe it adds a little bit more context,
if it adds
or not.
Something else to it, I'm definitely coming back to add on to it.
Right on.
Okay. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Y'all take care. Thank you.
All right,
bye.
Jonathan, congratulations to you as well. I'm so glad that you are amazing, and you are amazing. And I'm glad to have you here and to hear from you. And you look great. I saw your little camera slips. You're giving a younger Justin Bieber over there.
Oh,
I ain't mad at it. Any last words?
Yeah, some last words. I agree with you, Conscious, on pretty much a lot of what you were saying today. I really do hope that Tommy and the rest of Wendy's family get on the same page, and hopefully things will get a little bit better to where she's not feeling like she is, locked up and, living hidden away and cut off from the rest of the world. And hopefully things will get to a place where she doesn't feel so restricted.
Yeah, for sure.
In the future. And I really hope that her family, including her son, because I almost had something I wanted to go on about her son in particular, but I'm gonna leave it alone for today.
Okay,
I'm gonna leave it alone because it's just some of the stuff we were talking about when it comes to the optics of all that. I'm also over here kind of like, it don't make no sense for them to be doing that in front of Kevin either, with Kevin's own addiction issues.
Hold on. Who addiction?
Am I misremembering that Wendy's son had his own addiction struggles?
Did he? I'm not aware of that, but I
feel like I feel like he did at some point. I know I remember somebody saying something about something, but again, I'm gonna leave that alone for today.
Okay, hold on. But let me just ask: is anybody else aware that the son, Kevin Hunter Jr., is or might have some type of no? Okay, Shauna says no.
Okay.
He tried drugs apparently.
Okay, well, so he dibbled and dabbled,
Yeah.
but
Or at some point did, or maybe do now. I'm not really sure.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, if he gonna dilly dab and be experimental, it's like, he gonna live his life, but it's like, yes,
It's
please,
just like I was saying.
do that outside of your mama's. Please do that outside of your mama's person.
Addiction is a generational curse.
Yeah.
So if you have a parent that is an addict, there is a higher chance that you yourself, depending on what your triggers end up being, might slip into addiction.
Okay. So somebody know. Okay, so people are saying he was in rehab. FM
See?
says he was on lean.
And that's why I'm also over here like that's probably okay. See, I don't want to keep dragging this out. So we're gonna talk about this another day because I have my own theories on that one.
Okay, well, okay, so all right, so then let me do this. Let me listen to the Jason Lee interview, and then I'll use that to come back today, and then you come back up, and we get into Kevin Hunter
Kevin Juniors.
And I'm gonna send you a link
because let's be real about this. Kevin Senior has a role to play in, unfortunately, Wendy's demise. He might not have been putting the 8 balls in her hands, but he was causing a lot of triggers for her to be using.
That's even more interesting, and probably why the conservatorship is like, yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I don't think there were reasons why she didn't change that power of attorney to Kevin Jr. immediately after her divorce, in my opinion.
Wow. See, there are so many things to consider in this situation. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's come back and just talk about it. We're going to talk about it and indulge it and everything. So I'm going to send you a link on Instagram.
We all want what's best. We all want what's best for Wendy.
Yes.
We do. There's some checks and balances that
even if what's best is what Wendy don't agree to, I want what's best, not what Wendy want, but what's best for Wendy is what I want.
Well, and that's the thing. If Jason's over here talking about he gonna help her, he gonna free her. Like let's see Jason put his money where his mouth is. Let's see Jason and Charlamagne go put themselves involved in this and see what comes of it. Because I'm gonna just sit back and watch.
Okay, and I'm gonna put up some information on his addiction and rehabs and all of that stuff too, so that we can build upon that. All right, so let me get out of here, Jay. I'm gonna see you link later, boo.
Okay.
All right, y'all. This was a great commentary. We will be coming back later today, child. It's a lot going on. I'm gonna jump in the shower. I just need to get, so fresh and so clean, and then I'm gonna listen to the Jason Lee interview while I am doing the thizzle. And we'll be back, y'all. If you enjoyed yourself, once again, send an old nasty piece of donation to Cash App $Consciouztv, PayPal.me/ConsciouzTV. Email me at Consciouztv@gmail.com. Follow me on Patreon. Follow me on Instagram at Consciouztv. All of that good jazz. Tell me what you think in the comment section, and please thumbs up on your way out. And I will see y'all all later. Bye.